From the John DeVita Recording Studio, it's once again time for our monthly roundtable program, Meet the Chicago Historians. Today we present our April edition, recorded for posterity on this 21st day of April in the year of our Lord, 2014. Now here he is, everybody's favorite electronics troubleshooter and jack of all trades, John DeVita.
Thank you, Rich. From the John DeVita Broadcast Center, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another broadcast of Meet the Chicago Historians on the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network on Monday, April the 21st, the year 2014. Today's panel will be talking about our old neighborhoods, how they mold us into what we became. So sit back and enjoy Meet the Chicago Historians. And now to start today's broadcast, here's our announcer, Rich Lang.
And now, here's our panel moderator, Jack Ryan.
Yay! Well, good day, everyone. Good day. As I said, I'm not supposed to say if it's morning or night or noon or night, but it is a beautiful day, and it looks like spring is here to stay, wouldn't you say? First day after Easter, everything's in full swing. We got baseball started. We have the Hawks in playoffs. We have the Bulls in playoffs. And in my own case, I don't really care, but it's good to see them win anyway. Well, let's see now. We're going to, first of all, as has been our custom, we try to go to all the freshly made news, which we call local, which we call current events. Talk about that a little bit. And anything locally to talk about, anyone here. Let's introduce everybody first. To my left, Bill Kugelman.
Bill Kugelman with the Chicago Fire Department for 46 years. And I just love sitting here next to Jack and listening to his stories of his days in Mexico and Spain and Colombia. And to my left,
well, I must say I'm not to the left of anybody. No one has ever described me as being to the left of anyone or anything. I'm John Escacholco. I'm very glad to be here at the John DeVita Broadcast Center with our fine panel of experts. And I'm particularly glad to be here because yesterday, April the 20th, in addition to being Easter Sunday, was also my birthday.
Here, here.
So I'm glad to be here the day after my birthday, and it's good to be with all my good friends here for another Meet the Chicago Historians.
I might add, direct from an engagement yesterday on Beyond the Beltway with Bruce Dumont, and who was the guy you were arguing with? He's trying to make about referring to this being similar. You referred to this being similar to Munich and all that.
His name is Art Sear. He's a professor in Kenosha, Wisconsin. And he has a thing about anybody making any historical reference to Adolf Hitler. He somehow believes that Hitler is just off limits, and you cannot make any comparison of anybody or anything. He's very, and as I said, this is a set argument of his, and we've disagreed on that a number of times. But I enjoy doing the Bruce Dumont show.
The one thing, the best comment I heard was by Charles Krauthammer a couple of weeks ago on, I think it was a Fox News show with Brett Baer. He said, Putin isn't Hitler, but he's got Hitler's playbook. That's a pretty well done, well stated.
What this fellow says is that he says it's a rule in high school debating that if you use the first team to use Hitler's name loses.
What high school?
And I said, well, Art, I said maybe you're still debating at a high school level, but I moved beyond that a long time ago, so I don't see what a high school. And he did not appreciate that.
Tom and I were on the debate team at Montefiore. The first guy without the brass knucks. Next up. Rich?
I'm Richard Lang, your announcer, and also an amateur Chicago and European American historian.
He's also been an extensive background in academia.
So we go. Happy birthday.
My name is Ken Little. I'm the fire department at Wright College.
Thank you.
And taught Chicago history. And to my left is
Tom McKenna, retired Chicago police officer, and also a lifelong friend of our moderator, Jack Ryan, and one of the few people that actually admit to that.
Okay. We're,
Moderator, what? That sounds dirty.
we're missing Al Opitz today, and we're missing Jeanette Frontier, who is busy with another. She's out on assignment. How's that?
How about that?
She always
That's
calls.
what they always
and
say on
tells.
the networks.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's on assignment
We're gonna
today.
do a remote later.
That's very good.
But anyway, yeah,
I
but
mean,
she
she's
couldn't.
got a stuffed up toilet or something.
No, she actually had to work. So. But anyway, she always calls and tells, and it's always a pleasure to talk to her.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm glad she hasn't got a computer that way I can call at home. A little innocently. So okay, local news. What do we have locally? Anything good with the?
The weather.
No, not that stuff. I mean about the weather. We had the
Did you read in the paper about a possible use of the old Illinois Steel, was it U.S. Steel rather, property at 89th and Avenue O as being the site of the Obama Library?
oh.
It was
And,
mentioned as a possible site.
Yeah, possible site. They got, I don't know, they got 640 acres or something
Yeah,
like
there's
that.
a whole lot of spot
Yeah.
placed there.
Yeah.
Well,
uh,
if they build an Obama library with my money,
Yeah.
with our money, that's the finalization of.
you'll be broke. That's
Yeah.
Well, plus,
Yeah.
I believe that you should never use wasted space replacing it with wasted space.
Exactly.
Ooh.
My feelings exactly, Tom.
Yeah.
The views expressed by the panelists. No, it's not that.
taking a good abandoned factory and turning it into a library. I mean, it's
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
useless.
Well, they haven't done anything in 20 years. That's the thing. It's been vacant. I haven't been out there. And I know they said they extended South
how
Shore.
about a big
Drive.
nudist colony or something?
How big?
How big?
the,
No,
you know,
depends.
the practice has always been that presidential libraries are built with private funding. You raise money, and then they're turned over to the government, and the government manages them and
Manages,
operates them and
yeah.
maintains them.
Yeah.
But the building has always, I think, going back to Harry Truman, who was the first president to
To
create a
really-
presidential library.
yeah.
After he left office. And then now retroactively we have an Abraham Lincoln Library. FDR's library was established. I'm not sure how the difference in time between FDR and Truman, but I know Truman went out and raised money to build his library, and every subsequent president has done that, including Bill Clinton.
Yeah.
who
Well,
ra-
hey, that's
why
what,
why
that's
now
what
the
Obama's doing?
why the
He's going out,
taxpayers have
John.
to
He's going
fund-
out and raising money.
Yeah, but not
Us,
for his library. Yeah.
Ours.
Yeah, but,
Well,
but talking about Clinton's, it's a dual purpose. It's a presidential museum and a massage parlor.
Da-da-da-da-da-da.
A nice place to meet girls.
Yeah.
We always have the.
You know,
I was
the
gonna
other
say
thing is the gambler, the
a casino.
gambling casino, and some mope on the radio said something about, well, we can take 2 floors of, what building was it?
Marshall
Oh, yeah,
Field,
Marshall
the top
Field.
3 floors.
Or one of those, and Sears are
Yeah.
going 2 floors for the casino and 2 floors for the Obama library.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I don't think so.
I mean, that's what they were talking about.
Yeah.
You know, Ken, they're
Hey.
they're just
Can't you get in the elevator? 2nd floor, lingerie. 3rd floor, suits. 4th floor, library, and
Where's your library?
Yeah.
Craig?
and casino.
You're gonna be frisked going in here.
Well, the other, they were talking about the Thompson Center. Kicking all
Yeah.
those.
What
That's
about?
The old post office
Oh,
has
that's
been
it. I was
brought
gonna
up.
say.
Oh,
The old
Tom,
post
that's
office.
a great idea.
Yeah.
I said the same
It's
thing.
been- Right.
You
for
could have
what, for a
and
library
the
or
no,
for
for the
well,
for
casino?
actually anything, but originally
Yeah.
it was for a casino.
Casino. And you know what? I think it should be out at Miggs. I think that
No,
would be
weather. 6 months out of the year, it's not that good.
yeah,
out
but
there.
that's like
For the library.
going in no, not for a library, for the gamblers.
How about the North Pole?
The weather doesn't affect them at those tables and
Well,
that.
but yeah, I never thought of the main post office. And you know what's great about that? It's at least it's approachable by 4 different.
You've got
Yeah.
the being very
Locations.
picturesque with the traffic going right through it.
Right
You've
through
got room for probably retail and hotel
Yeah, right in
combinations.
there.
Maybe
yeah.
2 casinos instead of 1. Who
Yeah,
knows?
right. Yeah, yeah,
I mean, I thought the same thing, Tom.
yeah.
I guess
very
we was
good.
thinking right.
You know what? I'll
what they
donate
say.
to that. I really will.
It's good to Southsiders to think of that one.
But again, knowing people that have been involved in major rehab situations, they say that sometimes it's just better to tear it down and start over than to try to rehab, especially an older building, because it turns into
You know
to
why
a
Chicago
nightmare.
had such a large post office anyway?
Well, part of it
Major
was
distribution
The
hub.
railroad hub
yeah,
of the
it was the
nation
hub
at
for
that
the
time.
whole country.
All the mail orders places we had here.
Montgomery
okay.
Wards,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
Sears.
You know,
Ward, Sears,
Sears,
yeah,
Small
Speedies,
Wards,
yeah,
Warshawski's,
yeah, Warshawski.
Kleins.
So whatever happened to Warshawski?
This
They're
big?
still around,
Are
aren't
they?
they?
Is he still around? I don't think
No,
I
so.
don't
they
know.
closed. It's that
Yeah.
that
Everything
whole
on
that
the
whole
board,
area
remember?
is being
On
yuppified.
Oh, yeah? Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
God.
Okay. You know, now they're talking about Sears going out of business.
Yeah.
Been doing that for a
Walgreens.
long while.
Yeah.
What the hell's the story on
I
Walgreens
don't know.
moving to Europe?
Yeah.
What's the story on that? Money is it taxes or
I think mainly
yeah,
for
yeah.
tax
Tax purposes?
benefits, yeah.
See, they,
It
what
started
else
in
was leaving?
Chicago, for God's sakes.
That's
It's a
right.
Chicago.
I didn't know our former Senator Peter Fitzgerald had left the state because of money business.
Is that right?
Did you know he left?
No.
I heard that.
No.
Interesting.
Where do you, where do you,
I don't know.
I wasn't even sure he was ever here.
yeah. Very good.
I've never seen him here, but
No.
anyway, okay. What about the pension situation here? Somebody asked me the other day. I was having a cup of coffee, and you get an usual discussion with people, and he says, "Why do we have to cover that? Why do we have to cover so and so and so? How come we have to about the public sector pensions?" Well, the answer is because the Constitution says a contract like that done by the state is binding, like everything else.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
why. So thank
Yeah.
people like Martin Kennelly, Richard J. Daley,
Yeah.
Michael Blandick, Jane Byrne, Harold Washington.
Yeah.
What's his name? Who was in between the temporary?
Eugene Sawyer.
Gene Sawyer,
Yeah.
Richie Daley, and even this guy's just beginning to blame. We're going to blame for other things, but not quite
Yeah.
yet. But who would take the money and use it? They were empowered to collect the money for your pension bill and
Yep.
your pension and Tom's pension and my pension.
Yeah.
But that's not their money. George
No.
Gannon was remember who Captain Gannon
Right.
was our pension rep. They changed the law to get rid of him. We had one pension rep among active, so they went and they broke it down into categories. They had the patrolman, sergeant, the lieutenant captain. So they knocked Gannon out of the box,
Oh.
because he would. So anyway, that's years ago, about 1981.
Well, you know,
I
I
think.
They
think-
robbed Peter to pay Paul, all
Yeah.
of the politicians.
But if they
put it in
right
All
away-
they did.
But their own Paul.
It had to come to a head one of these days.
Yeah, they knew it
you know,
was going
sure
to.
they
Sure.
They kicked the can how far, right?
Yeah.
You know, when people talk about pensions now and they look at the pension in the situations that we have now, I think one of the reasons that everyone is talking about pensions and how much we are getting is because the economy is so bad. There are so many people out of work. There are so many people that didn't plan ahead for what they were going to do when they retired. So now they look at us
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
say, "Oh, look at what these guys are making." You know,
Yeah.
and or I hear the comment, "Boy, you've really got it good." You know, my response to that is, when I was working the Dan Ryan Expressway on Christmas Eve in 6 inches of snow after I had left my family at home, stopping carload after carload of very suspicious individuals, risking my life, no one ever walked up to me and said, "Boy, Tom, you've really got it good out here.
Yeah.
What a fantastic job this is."
How do I get an easy
But
job
now,
like
but
that?
now, 30 years later,
Yeah.
you know, they're saying, "Well, you got it good." Well, nobody handed it to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're right. A lot of it is the miserable economy that we've had for so many years. And I just like to remind everybody, this is all because of George Bush. And people may have forgotten. He
course.
was president a long time ago. Look
Right.
it up in the history books.
I forgot to mention that.
He's responsible for the economy that we have today.
Yes.
He planned it all, 10 years ago.
Well, he wants babies and old folks to starve to death.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just want to assure you, it has absolutely nothing to do with the man who's been president for the last 5 years. I mean, he's completely just an innocent bystander.
He's in his second term now, isn't
Yeah,
he?
it's his second term. And at the end of his second term, he's going to be blaming the mess on
George Bush.
right?
And another thing about the pensions, and people will say, I heard something on, anyone ever listened to John Cass in the morning on WLS?
No, not really.
Well, anyway, he said something about someone wants the state to do something with these pensions. He says, how about the city? I tried to get through. All these pensions are through the state. Old Chapter 108 and a half. I don't know what it is now.
Yeah.
But it's not the city. As a matter of fact, they had Lieutenant, he made me look like a fool at roll call. I showed him later. Oh, no, it's under some ordinance. I forget which one, so I showed him. But anyway, quietly.
Yeah.
Because you want to, he's a nice
No,
guy.
you don't want to embarrass him. Yeah.
No, I wouldn't do that to him. He'd do it to me. But,
I can see someone making an argument for future pensioners. But the present situation, when someone retires, they kind of gauge what their lifestyle is going to be
Sure.
by what they're going to be making on the pension. And to change the course, and it is a contract, and it is stated in our state constitution that it shouldn't be
Yeah.
changed. I ask people, what if you bought a car from Ford Motors and signed your payment, your loan agreement of paying $200 a month for X amount of years, and all of a sudden you get a letter in the mail that says, we haven't been doing too well financially, so we are going to raise your payment to $300 or $400 a
Yeah.
month.
Yeah.
Well, what would you think about that?
Yeah.
I mean, it's ridiculous.
Isn't it also true that part of the trade-off was that police officers and firemen were given less of a pay increase, and the trade-off was, well, we'll give you these benefits down the road in the form of pension. So we're not going to give you the pay increase that might be justified. Instead, we're going to give you a lower pay increase with the promise of these great benefits that you're going to have in the form of a pension
that's
down
right.
the road.
I never heard anybody say that.
Well, but
I never heard anybody say that at all.
That was my understanding.
Yeah, it has
But
been.
one of the things, but you raised my original point is all the people that were in different professions when John and I went on the job were probably making more money than we were. And I remember distinctly a good friend of mine that was in sales told me, Tom, you're wasting your time on the police department. You could be making 5 times what you're making. But the reason is we look down the road and the pension. Now, fast forward, all of those people are either out of work or retired with nothing but Social Security, and they look at me and say, hey, look at what these guys are getting.
Yeah.
and another thing is,
See, but the political angle is, if you promise the benefits down the road, somebody else is responsible for paying that. So if you're if you're an office holder, you want to give the lowest pay increase possible because you're responsible for that. You're going to have to answer for that today.
Mm-hmm.
So it's easier to give pension benefits that are down the road because you're going to be out of office by the time those come due, and it's not going to be your responsibility anymore.
John, and that may be your idea of this, but that wasn't their idea.
That absolutely was why it was done that way.
No, it was
Absolutely,
not done.
that's why of course
they gave us good raises starting in, I believe it was
after the
the end of '60s.
You've got to, I've got
and wait a minute, and then we were promised we weren't promised. We worked for these pensions, and the city or the state probably with the teachers and so forth did not put their fair share into that pension fund. It was the fault, actually, a lot of it would be to the police and the firemen's pension funds, that they didn't raise more hell. So it wasn't that they gave us good raises so that we and hired people so that those pension funds could be funded.
right?
And then they took their money and used it somewhere else.
It's really two different.
I handled those politicians.
It's two different.
It was in
Can you get by
Springfield
here?
too many times for that.
Two different situations, anyway. And another thing is, we put 9.1 of our pay into it from day one, and that continues even after you hit maximum.
Yep.
So
And we offered, the fire union anyway, we offered to up that to 10. Which was not a big deal. I mean, at one time it
plus
was
the only
10, just to help that out.
But
and yet it was the politicians, and we just mentioned them here, Daley and the rest of them, that took that money that they should have been giving us and gave it to somebody else.
Yeah.
But the thing is, the only reason that it's really come to a head now is because the bill that was enacted in the state legislature that said, I think it's 2015, that you are going to have to the municipalities, you are going to have to pay what you owe.
What are they?
And it's coming to a serious head, and then it's being politicized by our mayor that says, well, I refuse to raise the taxes of the
Property
citizens
taxes,
on the
yeah.
back of the. I mean, it's nonsense. If they had been paying what they owed, they used to get an actuarial statement, as you well know, every year, what they owed, and they just flat out did not pay it.
Yep.
You know, let me point something else out. You know, Bill, you served as a firefighter, and you understand the operations of the firefighters. You understand the union. I don't believe you ever held public office. You may correct me if I'm wrong.
No,
I don't believe you ever held
No,
public.
I didn't.
Well,
and I didn't want to, John,
let me finish.
because
I listen to you, Bill. Let me finish now. I listen to you, Bill. I served in public office, so don't presume to tell me how people in public office think, how they calculate things, and how they decide on decisions. And I can tell you that if you're in public office and if you can create a responsibility 20 years down the road when you're not going to be there anymore, that's the ideal situation for you. You're willing to promise
agree.
somebody
I
money
agree
down the
with that.
road rather than give them the money up front when you're going to have to answer for it.
Yeah,
And that's
I
a
agree
standard
with
way of
that, John.
operating. Okay.
I agree
Yeah.
with that thinking, but you know, you were in Cicero. This is Chicago.
I was in Springfield too, which
And-
is
and
which is
so
big,
was-
which is even bigger than
and
Chicago.
So was I. So was I.
You didn't serve
Not-
in the
not-
legislature.
not
You didn't
elected,
serve in the
no,
legislature
But I
in
had
Springfield.
I had to go down there and be with those jerks.
Well, thank you.
You know,
Yeah.
and
John.
I'm not saying you're
No,
you're
no,
a jerk.
no.
You're with plenty of jerks yourself, weren't you?
Yeah.
How long did you serve there, by the way? How long were you down there?
I only had 2 years down there, but I would have liked to have served more.
That's 2 years more
Yeah.
than anybody else had.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I tell you
like
what,
Abraham
I was
Yeah,
down there for
you're right,
probably,
yeah.
probably 28 years,
Yeah.
going back and forth with and
You know, if you're not
figuring
sitting on
around
the
with
other
those
side of the
people.
table, you don't understand how the thinking.
Oh, I know what their
thinking is and what the
thinking is, John.
decisions is.
I know what they're
If
thinking.
you
of.
if you can,
That's why we
it's-
went out in 1980.
Why do you think
doing
so
their
many
thinking.
states and they have unfunded liabilities that are never going to be paid down the road? Because the guys that created those responsibilities have long since retired.
Exactly,
They
exactly.
couldn't care less what their great grandchildren have to deal with.
Exactly.
You know, I
That's
just
the
want
only point I was making.
just want to mention something. When I came in the fire alarm in '57, by the way, my pay was equal to first class fireman, which I thought was a real thrill because I was a rookie. You know,
I got $4,600 a year.
Yeah,
in
this was
55.
when I took the exam, it was $49.50, so it was probably
Yeah.
50. Well, it was a couple of years.
it was
51.
67.92 for the police department when I started. No, I can remember. It was 1967. My
Yeah.
old clock number at Central Steel was 92. So,
Yeah.
couldn't-
But I was going to say, at that time, we had to pay our own health insurance, you know.
Yes.
And you know, it wasn't a big deal, but the city wasn't covering it, you know. And Mayor Daley, and I'm talking, you know, Richard.
the real Mayor Daley.
Jay.
The real Mayor Daley, yeah. 1 year he covered half of our pension plan, medical plan. The next year he covered the whole thing. The third year he covered half of because I had children. I had 2 boys when I came in the office. Left with 10. Anyway, and then the fourth year he covered all of the medical, but it took him 4 years to phase it in.
Wait a minute now. Ken, if you had 2
Yes.
boys already,
Yeah,
isn't that a pre-existing condition?
it's a pre-existing condition. Yeah, right. Yeah,
But the other rate just, you know, they.
But it was interesting to watch Mayor Daley operate. I mean, he knew his finances, you know, very, very carefully. And we were getting raises then, if anybody remembers, $125, $150 a year.
Yeah.
A year, you know.
Well, the
What
big
was
one,
it, 67 or 68?
68,
We got a,
after the convention.
we got a big
Yeah,
raise.
I
Across
think
the
we
board,
got that
remember?
big raise.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah.
that was like I always equate it to after McCormick Place.
I think John and I think our salary doubled in like 5 years.
this was Daley's
Yeah.
way of telling this
Yeah.
to his critics after the convention.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Itself.
Yeah,
'Cause
because
who argues over
my
who got
dad
it?
quit just before that,
yeah,
and all he had a small pension then,
yeah.
and if it wasn't for Social Security, the guy couldn't live.
He
couldn't
yeah,
live. You know.
yeah.
I like Tom's story about Mayor Daley. Is at the 72 convention, maybe, or the 76 convention? You know, when there was
How he always has a way with words.
yeah.
The some report, I'll say Dan rather, I don't know who it was, but anyway, some talking head sticks the microphone in front of him and says, and the talking head was trying to be very profound about Mr. Mayor, after not being seated in the last convention, and now you're back, and all that's gone on. And he goes on and on and on, and he sticks the microphone in front of Daley, and Daley says, "Excuse me, I'm going to go get a sandwich."
Those are those moments, aren't they?
That's right.
Right.
You could care less.
Right.
You could care less.
And it wasn't he wasn't sincere. He was trying to either egg him on. I never cared.
Oh, you know
Well,
that.
you know what? When Bill Reddy and Frank Mascari and I went to see him, and what we were doing was, getting together and
Yeah.
we wanted to see what the signs were. When we left, he said, "Fellas, never forget this." He says, "Fellas, when I'm gone, you better get yourself a contract
Yeah.
because there's
Because
no more
No more handshake, right?
handshakes."
No.
Who would be trustworthy after that? Right?
Well, that's right.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
right. And still, you can go down to some of those politicians, and you can get their word if they were a trustworthy person, I guess is what I would say. And I'm thinking of the guy that I deal with the museum.
Yeah.
His word is gold.
Yeah.
It may as well be a contract.
Who is
Yeah.
that?
you
Edward?
know. Yeah.
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 I mean, there's
the way it should
a
be, but-
politician is a politician. It's gotten to be a dirty word.
Yeah.
There's no statesman anymore.
Or
There's
should
no
be like public office holder.
Oh,
office
yeah.
holder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I always like to say is everybody derides politicians. You can't have our form of government without politicians. I mean, there are only so many ways you can run a country. A country can be run by the army.
Right.
It can be run by a party dictatorship like the Nazis or the Soviets. But if you're going to have a free government, you're going to have people who are going to run for office. The average person is not going to take 2 years off of his career, 6 years off of his career to serve a term in the House and then go back to people. Theoretically, that it's going to work that way, but it doesn't. You're going to have people who are going to be lifetime public servants.
Would you say that our system is inherently inefficient? Then, really, isn't it?
No.
It'd be much more efficient if I get up and make pronouncements every day. What's
But,
gonna
well,
be.
in that sense,
Yes,
we
I
don't
mean-
want an efficient government.
right,
I mean,
right,
you
right.
don't want
Well,
an
that's-
efficient.
well,
you don't
that's
want an order given and everybody jumps and.
Well, that's what I like about our current president. Last week he said Obamacare is a success, in the end of the debate. I mean, case closed. I mean, that's the best way to be. I mean,
Declare yourself a winner. and
Too
give
bad,
your-
too
give
bad,
your-
right? Too bad he wasn't president during the Civil War. Prior to the
44.
Civil War, he could have just said, "Slavery's over. End of debate, and let's move on."
the
But
hostilities.
we could have saved ourselves a Civil War.
It's pretty much the same as.
I think you should carry it a little further. I mean, why have a Super Bowl or a World Series? The president can just give an edict from the White House, who the world champion is, and that will probably be the best way the Cubs have a shot at winning the World Series.
Oh, no, come
by,
on.
come
by presidential edict.
No, wait a minute now. He said, if you remember, as many days he sat over at Kaminsky Field. He said, called it. And it's on tape.
Yeah.
Kaminsky Field.
With,
Oh, yeah.
with all of those
I've been
Army
to Kaminsky
corpsmen.
Field.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Corpseman.
One of my all-time favorite comments by a politician and our future president, as a matter of fact, Hillary Clinton, when she moved to New York,
Yeah.
and she was wearing a Yankee hat. It might have even been at a Yankee game, and they said, "Mrs. Clinton, you've always said and you've always told everyone that you were a lifelong Cub fan. Now you'll love this." And she said, "Well, yes, I always was a lifelong Cub fan, but secretly, I was a Yankee fan.
Someone
Secretly."
She claimed to be born on the pitcher's mound in Yankee Stadium from a Jewish grandmother.
But I mean,
And now
can
she's
you
going to be a
imagine-
grandmother.
Can you
She's
imagine?
going to be a grandmother, yeah.
And they just let her get away with stuff like that.
Can you imagine if George Bush or Dan Quayle had said Kaminsky Field and Corpseman or something?
Yeah.
Be all over the place, wouldn't it?
Letterman would still be doing jokes about it.
Yeah.
Well, Dan Quayle didn't know how to spell tomato, too.
Well, no, wait, that's actually the correct. That's an archaic way of spelling
Potato,
it.
I think.
Potato,
It was
one of those.
potato.
Yeah, but
He
an
was told by the
OE on the
teacher.
end. It's like the
That
old,
was a
old,
setup.
you know.
That
you're
was a
right.
setup.
It's
The
okay either way.
The teacher told him that this is the correct spelling.
Oh.
But he took the fall for it.
Oh, pardon me. You're
Oh, in there.
listening to Meet the Chicago Historians, and we'll be right back.
How are the tires on your vehicle? Do you need motor oil? Or transmission fluid? Or power steering fluid? How about antifreeze? What about the wiper blades? Are they in good, sharp condition? Is the washer fluid in your tank full? How good is your battery? Do you need to replace light bulbs? Well, the place to pick up all these items is at Berkeley Auto Supply, 5237 St. Charles Road in Berkeley, Illinois. Stop in and see Tom, and he will get any part or supply you might need for your vehicle. He has every tool, part, or supply you might need, from the front bumper to the rear bumper, from the top of the roof to the bottom of the chassis. You can call Tom at area code 708-544-8350, and they are located at 5237 St. Charles Road in Berkeley, Illinois. Tom's hours are Monday to Friday, 8 o'clock in the morning until 8 o'clock in the evening. On Saturdays, he's there from 8 o'clock in the morning until 6 o'clock in the evening. And he's even open on Sundays from 10 o'clock in the morning until 3 o'clock in the afternoon. That's Berkeley Auto Supply, 5237 St. Charles Road in Berkeley, Illinois. He is just east of Wolf Road and west of Mannheim Road, about 2 miles on the south side of the street. You can call 708-544-8350 for parts, tools, and supply. That's Berkeley Auto Supply, 708-544-8350, and he's located at 5237 St. Charles Road in Berkeley, Illinois. And now is the time.
Here are our historians.
Heck.
They have the time
Time of their
Okay.
life. I saw Manny dance with his wife.
That was really quaint, wasn't it, in those days?
Yeah, right, wasn't
They
it?
say you can tell you're in a small town if you see a man out with a girl young enough to be his daughter, and it really is. They say, whoever they are. But they say a lot of things anyway. Anybody else got a good... So anyway, we're still moving around. How about the international situation here? Do we always skip national? Is anything nationally about... What's all this business about, though? We got to have women, equal rights, equal pay, and all that.
My
I thought that was
goodness,
solved a long
yeah.
time ago.
Don't they have it?
Yeah, I thought they did.
I don't think that once Abraham Lincoln ever spoke for equal pay for women, you know, or equal votes for
they
women.
were
No.
in those days.
Neither
You
did
kept them,
Thomas Jefferson.
You kept them, was it pregnant in the summer and barefoot in the winter or something like that? Wasn't
Oh,
it?
no.
He didn't do that much with Mary, though, did he? Mary Todd?
Well, it's against you could not pay a woman a lower wage or lower salary for doing the same job that
Same
a man.
amount of work,
That's
yeah.
it's illegal. So
Yeah.
it's a silly argument to say that
They're not taking into account.
they're taking into account. They're adding up all what women earn and what men earn, and then dividing
But
it and saying that
women
you know,
leave, have children,
Sure.
they come back, they leave. Like on the police department, very few. How about this is true? Women go beyond the 20-year minimum for a pension. You see, no, they usually quit. I don't fault them for that either. But they
Well,
gotta-
I heard, and I forget what state it was. It was either Tennessee or Kentucky, where it was the first time that they put a female in the space on the birth certificate for father. So now women can be fathers.
I don't know.
Can men be mothers?
Well, a lot of people, they call me mother
don't
quite
answer
often,
that.
you know, when I was on the three-wheel especially. That's funny. You could write a guy, you could lock a guy up for some felony, and you see him later. How you doing, babe? Ah, fine. Write somebody up. Even a parking ticket, they stare daggers at you at the store or something like that. Am I right? Am I right?
Well,
But
I
if-
saw somebody in the obituaries the other day. I don't remember who he was. You know, nobody. But the obituary said that he is, left behind his husband so and so, and that kind of answers your.
Well, if
your
if
question there,
women can be fathers, then men can be mothers. Can a
Yeah.
cat be a dog?
Well, we'll find out because
I mean, if
Kate,
we are going,
Kate and I are getting
no,
married
no,
next month.
right?
You know.
If this country is going completely over the edge
Oh.
and totally insane,
Yeah.
I mean, what is, God?
This is like the emperor's new clothes. Someday somebody's going to say, you know, I mean, there are things now we're talking about that are becoming public policy and law that fly in the face of thousands of years of civilization and traditions, right? They call it in law. They call something that you don't have to prove. Judicial notice is the world is round. You know, the sky is blue. Water is wet. If you said going to a wedding, you picture a bride and a groom, correct? Because that's what we had. We didn't have multiples here. I'm sure some countries in the Middle East we have multiple brides or whatever, a harem, and but here that's what it is. And you can't tell me this that they're not just trying to chip away at whatever culture and civilization we have and tradition. And just
You've got a couple of states that don't matter if you have more than one bride,
Which
more
one?
than one wife. Is it Utah?
No, that's not
Well,
true.
that I think will have been abolished some time ago.
Has it been? I thought
As
it
a
was
price
yeah.
for them coming into the union.
That was one of the prices
So did
that
the,
Mormons had to pay for Utah.
Yeah,
to
the
become a
Church
state.
of Latter-day Saints of Jesus Christ. The real one, they banned polygamy a long time ago, but they've got these different splinter groups out
They're
there.
splinter groups, yeah.
Yeah, they're runaways or breakaways. And
You know what they do, Bill, is that the guy will have 3 wives, but he's only married to one. So there's only one marriage
Hey,
technically.
what a great idea.
But
Well,
he's got three brides and 15 kids. You know.
Well, that was like the guy in Texas who was married or living with several women and had a whole bunch of kids, and the state came in and arrested him. Do you remember this? And he was supporting them. They were happy. The kids were happy. So he is supporting his children, and he gets arrested. Someone else has 15 illegitimate children
on welfare.
and we're supporting those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, common sense is like
No,
I mean,
it's-
totally,
it's
it's,
out the
totally
window.
out the window.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I-
that
I,
doesn't make. What was the charge? Do you recall what his charge?
Yeah, well,
was?
I guess
Non-support. It could be
polygamy,
non-support.
polygamy, and
well,
I'd like to
whatever.
read the actual law, the
Yeah.
wording of it.
Yeah.
well, in Illinois, adultery and fornication are crimes. However, they said to be a crime, it must be open and notorious. The same thing with prostitution. And they asked the Supreme Court, the Illinois Supreme Court, what do they mean by open and notorious? And they said, on the stairway of the Art Institute at noon will be open and notorious.
Oh, okay.
So that was the answer there.
So you stay away from the
Thank
Art
God I'm
Institute.
covered.
Stay away from in City Hall too. Don't.
When you say that, what are you talking about? Everybody would be in jail if that were the case, right?
Yeah.
I was down, and it's not really on that, but you asked about women getting the same pay. I was at the academy for our last meeting there, Ken,
Yeah.
and I was there early because my niece is in this class.
Oh, no kidding!
Yeah, now
Congratulations,
Bobby Joyce's daughter, and she is a physical fitness. You know, she was a personal, what do they call a personal trainer.
Trainer. Yeah.
But she was also a Hooters girl too.
Oh, okay.
And so you can see
Yeah.
what she's like. Sarah is a vivacious blonde, and she can handle herself.
Nice headlights.
And I'm there, yes, and I'm there watching
She'll
them
never drown.
raise a 50-foot banger, not the 65 wooden one
No.
like we raised.
I know.
You know, in the good old days, this
Yeah.
was an aluminum ladder, 50 foot, and the only ones on the tormentors, which were just a couple of poles, were a couple of girls that probably didn't weigh 100 pounds together.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
You know,
They're not going to be raising any ladders.
no,
That'd be on the engine.
Absolutely
You can handle
not.
the hose.
And yet here you got these big, strong guys out there that really want that, and
Yeah.
these girls are taking up those spots.
Can you say social engineering?
And
Well,
and
but-
these two guys here were in the police department. They know what the girls did on the police department.
I'll give you one of my favorite stories about common sense. Abandon all common sense, ye who enter
When did
here.
government have anything to do with common
Right.
sense?
Well, here, and
Whoever
I'll give you a
suggested
great
that.
story. When we first
John,
came,
you should know that.
I do
When we-
know that.
when we first came on the job, the federal government had a program called LEAP, a law enforcement assistance program, and they were spending a lot of money to educate people that wanted to go into law enforcement, better education, namely college degrees. Now, most departments you need at least some college or a degree to get on. So at the same time, all these guys were graduating from college with criminal justice degrees. They were hiring by affirmative action. So they had a program in the police academy for those that were hired under affirmative action who were not very well educated. They had a remedial reading and writing program for the affirmative action hirees, while the federal government had spent tons of money to educate people to go into law enforcement. Can we say insanity?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I remember a supervisor, and I'll try to. Is there a neutral it? I shouldn't say it. Oh, it's a she. Okay. She was reading off the detail of a football game at Eckerson Stadium. Eckersall, LL in the end.
Oh, sure.
This is my
Yeah.
sergeant.
Yeah.
So, can I say? Plus, it's just nonsense. I'm not
But
saying.
let me say one thing, because the chief mentioned about candidates at the academy. They I think, are being picked out just by random, though, aren't they, Chief? I don't think there's any either affirmative action or they're trying to match up men, women, etc. I think
what?
it's sort of the luck of the draw. I think is the way it is.
No, there's some of them that are they're
Yeah.
using some type of affirmative action. They
There is.
They
Yeah.
want that.
Yeah.
They don't want it all white. They want it mixed
Yeah.
up, mixed
Yeah.
colors, and that. But you've got that, what they call it, the Tuskegee class of 111 blacks that were hired here. That's about
Oh
a year
yeah.
or so
Yeah.
ago,
Right. Yeah.
remember that?
Yeah.
And now you have a class of women, and they're waiting for the judge to, in His Holiness, give
Yeah.
his judgment.
Well, the
on
pro-
that, but they're gonna win, and all of those women will come on at the same time.
But the thing is, the problem with testing is it discriminates against stupidity.
Yeah.
And the one of I asked I think it was the last test or the test before the police test, because they keep on dumbing down the test so almost everybody would pass it. I said, "How was it?" He goes, "Tom, I'll give you a similar question that was on the test, reading comprehension. I planted a tree. The tree is beautiful. I love my tree. My tree gives me shade in the summer. The above paragraph is about a car, a boat, a walrus, or a tree. I mean, that's the kind of testing
think
they're
about
getting.
that one.
Stuff you got to really think.
If you know
about.
the answer, folks, phone in and we'll.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Right, and so naturally I said, which one was it?
Yeah. Which. Yeah. I think the boat was.
The shame of it is, they don't need that. There are plenty of people, black guys, that are just as sharp as anybody in the world.
Yep.
Some of them have multiple degrees, which I do not. I didn't even get my Associate of Arts degree. You finished school, right? Where'd you go,
Right.
Lewis?
DePaul, Northwestern, and then the internet.
Oh, okay. Anyway, but I'm saying there's multiple degrees. For some reason, they can't get the job when they go for it. So I just wonder if there's some political interference here, or what. I would say that's probably the case. That's my favorite subject anyway, because in my own case, Tom was never bright enough to make any rank, and neither was I. I used to get a couple of times I took the test, the evaluation for sergeant came back this man's not fit to be a human being. Well, just about, that's just what it said.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah,
so many words.
I got a little story here that it's just like you say, Tom. It's ridiculous, and we had I had a woman that was from a black woman, and she was on 83 with me, and I came in one day, and the guys told me that so and so is not going to be at work today. She's laid up on the medical, and I said, "Oh, what's the matter?" Now this is a girl that had was very black skinned. She had tattoos all over her. She had that dragon or snake up her neck and all of that.
I love that.
I wouldn't want to meet her in an alley, dark alley at night,
Or a light alley.
And, so it was all hush hush.
Yeah.
And I finally called a nurse. I said, "What the heck is the matter with her? The guy's picking, she's got a mental problem or what?" Called up and they told me that she had gone out of the country to have a sex change operation. And she came back a
guy.
and in her thinking, and the guys then from then on were calling her, like you say, it.
Yeah.
And it was answer the phone. Hey, you got to call. You got to.
Firemen can be brutal, and they got 24 hours to do it.
Oh yeah, yeah. And they and it was 83's house. You know how they are.
Yeah.
That's
In
Uptown. And I got to the point, and I don't like to do. I was the boss, so I was told not to.
Yeah.
It was just my thing. I didn't want to embarrass anybody.
No.
But it happened so much that I would call up and say, "Hey, is it there?"
Yeah.
Well then.
The it girl.
The it girl.
She.
Clara Bow.
Yeah, right. The it girl.
It left
I thought it was
there.
Clara Bell.
Went in the bureau, and lost. She promoted to lieutenant, and then promoted to captain.
Oh.
And it is now a chief.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
It
is now a chief. Yeah.
And I got a call here. It's several times now because the guy has passed away since. Called me up and she was in my old battalion buggy.
Oh.
And he had to call me up and say, "Hey, guess who replaced you?"
Guess it. Yeah. Yeah. And it's so much nicer too, Chief. We're glad you're
In the
going.
eyes of the law, you don't change your sex. You're a mutilated male or a mutilated female.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
'cause we had one pizzeria in the neighborhood. Tina owned it. Well, Tina used to be Tony, I think. Her 5 o'clock shadow used to show quite a bit, but for some reason my sister was so fascinated with Tina. She'd be talking her arm off when we go in the place. Had good pizza, but I'm telling you.
I got one quick story. My son was one out for a battalion chief, and he gets a phone call at home, and it's a chief calling him, and he says, "If you were offered the promotion, will you take it?" What a thing to say! Of course.
Sure. Yeah.
He said, "Yeah." He says, "Why do you ask?" He said, "Well, we were going to make a promotion, and it was a female, and she turned the job down." Now, here's someone who takes an exam, goes through all the rigmarole, and studying.
Yeah.
And she did a pretty good job.
They've done that for a while, Ken.
Yeah, and
yeah.
she turned the job down. He ultimately got the vacancy.
Now the police, the Dix list came out twice. It came out, and then it came out again because they were all lined out, people that would not take it.
Oh, really?
Now you take that exam and then you're not going to take it.
Yeah.
I understand. After the guys told me, I understood why they weren't. Well, if a guy's got a job as a patrolman, he's got a good job somewhere, and he lives on the north side and he works on the north side, he's not going to take the Dix job and then get thrown south or.
But then why take the test in the first
Yeah.
place?
Well,
and
that's- yeah.
That's the reason.
Yeah,
that's what I'm
exactly.
getting to. Yeah.
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 But
now that doesn't mean that they can't, then take the sergeants or whatever. But even so, if he had a good job somewhere as a patrolman, he'll have a good job somewhere.
I
as a dick too.
took the old detectives exam in '71. I was actually off with a broken wrist. I had time to study. Didn't study at all. That was the hardest test I ever took in my life, any kind. It was just like, if I'd gotten into some program or something, know what I was doing, but my head came out of there like, choo, choo, choo. It was a late tech, so.
yeah.
Great story. Years ago, a good friend of mine who was a deputy superintendent of police in the town, and he underwent surgery. He had to have brain surgery. And he was the head of the uniform division. He was deputy chief in charge of the uniform division. And in my town.
Okay, yeah.
And the deputy chief in charge of the detective bureau came to visit him. And, he was ribbing them. And he says, they're going to go in there and operate on your brain. He says, you don't have too much brains to begin with. He says, they take some of them out, you're going to be in bad shape. And he says, don't worry about it. If they take all of my brain out, I can get a job with you in the detective bureau.
Oh,
That's what you call ball busting.
yeah.
That's what we call ball. I lost right after I was elected president of the union. I had a problem, and they found out that it was cancer of my right kidney, so they had to take it out at Northwestern Hospital. And when I woke up from the anesthetic, and it was still there, I had the fire chaplain, the assistant fire chaplain, the police chaplain, Tom Nangle,
Yeah.
and who else? There was Moshe Wolf,
Oh,
the rabbi.
you were really covered.
chaplain.
Yeah.
And I woke up and I looked around and I thought, oh my God, what happened?
You already died.
Hey, while we're talking a little current events, I'm not a South Sider, but the firehouse in Morgan Park. It's at Homewood and Pryor for you South Siders, 11035 South Homewood. They are celebrating a centennial this Saturday.
No, it's Wrigley Field.
This Saturday.
Wrigley Field, isn't
What are you talking about?
it? Wrigley Field centennial.
That's
Are
Are they
the whole
celebrating
year.
that this weekend? Is that when they're going to actually have
I
the
don't know.
official?
I don't know.
I know it's all year, but
yeah.
is there a particular
Oh,
day?
about
that-
it by
I think
now.
Wrigley
Is
Field.
there a
Their
particular
first
date?
game was April 23rd or so.
It was Wegham Park.
Yeah,
And it wasn't
yeah.
the Cubs. The
It had been
first-
a federal.
first year it
Well,
was the
let me
Cubs.
just finish
No,
this.
by then it was. I'm sorry. By then it was, though. Go ahead.
Yeah. Anyway,
When did you lose control of your story? You were telling
I'm
a
sorry.
story here.
after
Yeah, culpa
may
me.
I?
Please
No,
continue, sir.
they were organized 100 years ago when Morgan Park was annexed, and they've been in the firehouse since 1916. We hang on to everything, and they're having an open house from 10 to 2. I understand.
Saturday?
Yes, this coming Saturday.
Okay, everybody, that's 110 something Holman?
11035 South Homewood.
Homewood.
You Southsiders,
Okay.
Homewood, 1900 West.
Have you been there?
Okay, your name.
Oh yeah. Oh, are you kidding? I've taken pictures there. I submitted. I wrote up a first thing I've written this year,
Did you?
and
Okay.
and I
That's
submitted
what
about.
I put that out, Ken, to find out if we're going to be
and
there.
I don't know if we're going to be there or not.
Yeah, somebody said that, who was it? Father John and
Oh yeah.
somebody, I think Connors are going to
Yeah.
be there. Yeah.
Anyway, so I thought I would spread that out. And
Good.
as far as Wrigley Field, I think the first game ever played there was April 23rd.
Then that was a Federal League game, huh?
It was federal, for 2
The
years.
Chicago Whales.
Chicago Whales. The Cubs won the game too, by the way.
They didn't play him, did they?
They played the Whales played
Did they?
they played I don't know who they played, but
The Whales.
the Whales.
Now, did the owner of the team, did they call him the Prince of Wales?
Wegham, as part of the settlement, Wegham got to buy the Cubs.
Yes, right, and moved it to the north side. Yeah,
He moved them, from the West Side Pavilion, was it?
west side. Well, whatever. There were a
Irish.
couple of parks out on the west side, but
Irish were not allowed in
But-
there because it was all Wales. All
Yeah.
people from
Prince of Wales.
Prince of Wales.
King of England. Oh, my father.
But by the way, the old park has a marker now. The last couple of years, they put a marker up there. In fact, one of the principal backers is a policeman.
Where?
And,
The old West Side?
Yeah, the old west side. It's at 825 South Wood Street, and that's about where the Cub
Right on
dugout
County Hospital.
was. Yeah, yeah.
Because they say that left field used to back up against the mental ward, and that's where the
where
term comment out of left field came
Out
from.
of left field, yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
That's true. Yeah.
Also, they say, but I don't know if it's true or not, that in pitching, contrasting left-handers and right-handers, the left-handers were on the south side of the park, so they were called southpaws.
Southpaws.
Yeah.
And they say about Wrigley Field, Bronco Nagurski. By the way, folks, for those of you who don't know, the Bears played from 1920 or 1920 to 1971 at Wrigley Field.
Yeah.
We used to go down, get standing room to watch them field.
Yeah.
To this day, I've seen more Bear games than Cub games. However,
Yeah.
that being said, Bronco Nagurski caught a swing pass, and one of the end zones was a little bit short, and he ran into the wall.
Yeah.
And he came back to the huddle and supposedly said, that last guy hit me pretty good.
Yeah. Well, the other was where he was running through the line. He said, and he hit the wall head on, and was knocked out. When he woke up, he said, that secondary, that's murder.
Didn't he also trip over third base a couple of times?
Third base. That was...
Listen, you're talking about that yesterday, Sunday, Easter. I don't know how I got on it, but it was on the channel, cable channel, and it might have, I don't know, it was 32 or 26 or whatever it was, and it was 2 hours, the biography of that Father Jerzy, the Polish priest that was with Lech Walesa.
Populuszko?
Oh, something.
Yeah,
something, whatever.
Yeah.
Father P.
Yeah.
But his name,
First name was Jerzy.
Jerzy.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it was his, and it was, I couldn't stay away from it.
Really?
It was all exact history of how he came about, how he treated, and it was all actual footage.
Yeah.
It
Sure.
was,
It's all modern. It's almost current events.
Oh, it was what a great story,
Yeah, no, I never heard of him.
No
Yeah.
BS in there at all, but
Yeah.
and how they killed him, and
When you
who-
say they, are you
Communists.
talking the communists?
communists.
Yeah.
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 And-
Oh,
and-
it was really a well done
Yeah.
story too.
So now we're going to give it all back, all the things that have been done, all the things that happened, and people who sacrificed, and now to break up the Soviet system, we're going to go back to now with Mr. Putin there, huh?
Sounds like it. It sounds like it.
But that also may be, if you pardon the expression, temporary. I don't know what temporary is.
It's all
I mean,
everything's temporary.
5, 10. Well, things change.
We're only here on a visit.
Just a little piece of lead changes a lot of things.
Just think if you were Rand McNally and they're saying, where the hell are we going to put this line now
Yeah.
between?
I remember an old Three Stooges comedy that said, "Kingdom of Bulgaria,
Bulgaria.
boundaries due to change without notice," or something like
Yeah,
that.
right.
The war was already going on in Europe, I
Yeah,
believe. Then
yeah.
World War
There's another great one where it must have been about 1940. It's before the United States is in the war, but
Yeah.
the war is going on. And they're being chased by the cops, and they wind up in line that they think is a bread line, and it's actually the enlistment
Yeah.
line to join the Army. And there's a sign on the building that says, "Join the Army and see the world, or what's left of it."
Was that the one where they starts out in World War I with their sergeant?
No, this is a different. I think this is different. This is a different one. Yeah.
They went up with the back, same guy later. By the way, but anyway, but we digress. Anything else, guys? Current events. Let's go. Come on.
The Ukraine.
Ukraine. Oh,
Ukraine, yeah.
we better take a little more time with that. I
Wait
think
till
so.
after the break.
Yeah, the Ukraine was. There are some people in our prostituted press and newsboys calling it a civil war down there.
Yeah.
One, what's the word I'm looking for? Independent and what's the word for your one
Autonomous.
state? Autonomous.
Autonomous region or
What else? What else?
Federation?
region, territory, province.
Is it bigger
Sovereign.
Is it bigger,
Some-
Is it bigger than a bread
One
bucket?
sovereign state
Sovereign. Oh, okay.
against
Okay.
another, but that's
Yeah.
a civil war.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now I have Russian citizens. What next? Are you going to invade Chicago with the Russian neighborhood or what?
Well, the Russian prime minister was on one talk show Sunday. I forget which one, and they said if our president said that if they continue any further expansion,
He'll give another
that
speech.
that there will be more more sanctions and embargoes and the look on the Russian's face, it was almost like he was going to blurt out laughing.
Yeah.
You know, like, what's he going to do next? I mean, what's our president going to do next? Any further expansion, and I'm going to throw myself on the floor and throw a temper tantrum that you will not believe.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a joke.
We'll spray paint their name on the wall
And
somewhere.
plus, and plus, in Russia, the American companies, I heard a statistic. McDonald's, I think, is it 12 or 18% of their profits worldwide are from Russia.
Russia.
Yeah.
So I mean, it just shows he's so naive about how things work.
Well, is he naive, or is he just such a believer that we shouldn't have this one superpower who is
Yeah,
maintaining
he doesn't believe we
this
should be
Pax
throwing our weight
Americana
around. That's
throughout
right.
the
He
world?
doesn't, he doesn't believe in American
Right,
power.
that's probably a better description.
When you've got force on one side and talk on
Oh,
the other.
pardon me, gentlemen.
force is
We'll be
gonna-
right back
Hold
after
that-
these announcements.
Hold that thought, John. You're up
Hold that
next.
thought, John.
Hold that thought.
Hold that thought. It's not a good name for a quiz show. Hold that thought if you have one.
We haven't said much about Chicago neighborhoods yet.
Has changed their name to Carpet Warehouse at 4300 West Montrose Avenue in Chicago, and their new location at 440 North Sheridan Road in Highwood, Illinois, called Carpet of Highwood. Stop in at Carpet Warehouse, located at 4300 West Montrose Avenue, and their phone number is area code 773-283-0100, or at 440 North Sheridan Road in Highwood, and that phone number is area code 847-266-1400. For carpets in your living room, dining room, bedroom, den, or family room, stop in at either location for a great deal. Once again, Carpet Warehouse, 4300 West Montrose Avenue, and their phone number is area code 773-283-0100 in Chicago, or Carpet of Highwood at 440 North Sheridan Road, and that phone number is area code 847-266-1400. Remember, if you need a carpet in your living room, dining room, bedroom, den, or family room, stop in at 4300 Montrose Avenue in Chicago, and once again, that phone number is area code 773-283-0100, or at 440 North Sheridan Road in Highwood, and that phone number is area code 847-266-1400 for a great deal on carpeting.
Again, we return you to our panel.
Time of their life. I saw Manny.
No, the point I was making before we broke, we were talking about the Ukraine, and I simply said that when you have force on one side and talk on the other, force is going to prevail.
Right. Well, that's when our president ran for office. He campaigned on that theory that if there was a conflict, that he would sit down and talk to the and I guess I don't know if he was sitting or standing during their telephone conversation, but it was totally useless.
There was a man many years ago. He was British, I believe. He carried an umbrella, and I think he had the same philosophy of dealing with Adolf Hitler. And it was in all the history books, I think. I don't think it turned out very well, as I recall, from the way history worked out.
Well, plus, I mean,
Peace in our time.
well, plus, I'm always amazed at how naive some people are, that not understanding that there are some real bad people in the world, and sometimes, as you just said, force is necessary.
One thing to bear in mind about the Ukraine is, and this is something the media doesn't bring out, they keep talking about all these Russians that are in Eastern Europe, and they make it sound like they're a huge factor. The Russian ethnic population of the Ukraine is probably about 15%. It was 17%, but now the Crimea has been taken away, and that was overwhelmingly Russian. So there may be 14% of the people in the country. Roughly 80 or more % are ethnic Ukrainians. and they're not enthused about the idea of being under the thumb of Moscow or Vladimir Putin.
Well, that's one of my favorite lines. Is you can achieve a lot with a kind word. You can achieve more with a kind word and a gun.
And a gun, yeah. That was ascribed to Al Capone, I think.
Robert De Niro. That's funny. I remember there was a Russian Olympic committee. They had a group out there were testing some athletes, track and field athletes, and they were doing the hammer throw. And one of the throws went errantly, and it flew over into the next field. And the farm workers were working without a warm-up, without proper form. He throws it back, and it goes really far. So they go over and they get the guy. You never done this before? He said, no. He said, we could probably train you. You'd be in the Olympics. He does a few times. They're close to record distances. And they said, that's really something. He says, well, that's nothing. You should see how far I can throw the sickle.
That
Anyway.
was a Ronald Reagan joke. I heard Ronald Reagan tell that story.
I read in Boy's Life, I think.
I heard Ronald Reagan tell
You read
that
Boy's
story.
Life.
Reagan,
anyway.
Reagan used to tell a story about the American and the Russian who were arguing, and the American says, "Look," he says, "in the United States, he says, I can stand on Pennsylvania Avenue, right in front of the White House, and I can say Ronald Reagan is an idiot," and he says, "Nothing will happen to me." And the Russian says, "He's same in Soviet Union. We have same freedom in Soviet Union." He says, "No, you don't." He says, "Of course. I can stand in Red Square, right in front of Kremlin, and say Ronald Reagan is an idiot. Nothing going to happen to me."
I remember that. It's a great line.
I heard when he died, it was a couple of years ago now, right? 2 or 3 years. They get one of his speeches, and he says Castro was having one of his long-winded speeches. It was full of auditorium full of people who had to be there. And all of a sudden, he hears interrupted. Some vendor comes and goes, popcorn, peanuts, popcorn, peanuts. They look around, there's quiet. Goes on for a while. There's popcorn, peanuts, popcorn, peanuts. No, look around, nobody. He says, the next time, if I catch whoever's yelling at popcorn and peanuts, we're going to kick you all the way to Miami. So the whole audience starts going, popcorn, peanuts. Okay, we're still on the Kremlin, right? Oh, not Kremlin. The Ukraine. Okay, right? And what's going on there? Dangerous situation to me that we're just...
It's right out of Adolf Hitler's playbook. I mean, this is how he got the Sudetenland. I mean, you bully a smaller country, you stir up trouble, you send in agents to stir up trouble, and then when the trouble is stirred up, you say we have to march in and protect our fellow countrymen who are being abused. And it's exactly what happened with Czechoslovakia in 1938.
Yeah, something bad is going to happen over there, and those people now are collecting money so that they can buy weapons and arms. They don't have anything.
No, we persuaded them to kind of disarm. They had nuclear weapons.
Exactly.
You know,
we
now
took
why
missiles out
didn't why doesn't our president say something about, well, let's settle this?
when the Soviet Union fell apart, some of their nuclear weaponry was in the Ukraine, which was part of the Soviet Union. And so we and the Europeans persuaded them to voluntarily give these weapons up, which they could have taken custody of, because they said, well, you don't really want to be a nuclear... So they gave up weapons that if they had them now, Putin wouldn't touch them with a 10-foot
We
pole.
bought
He wouldn't
them,
dare
didn't we?
trifle
Did we
with them.
purchase them from them for...
I think they were. I'm not sure, but they were withdrawn and either destroyed or transferred back to Russia and
10 cents on the
transferred to
dollar.
Russia.
Yeah, right.
I bought some what were they, 45s ammo the other day, and I didn't realize what they were. They were Russian, made in Russia.
Wow.
Not brass, So when the sergeant said pick up your brass, why you didn't have to pick these up. They're just metal.
Yeah.
The shells are just metal on them, and I don't know if they should be used or not.
It'd be a problem. We went to war with Russia because we'd be, they'd be shipping, bullets to us. I'd say, hey, we're a couple of shipments behind.
Yeah.
Can't you,
I was very surprised.
My
at that.
dad had said during World War II, someone in the Roosevelt administration asked where our brass mines were in the country. It turns out brass is an alloy. Am I right? Is it copper and something, or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brass and bronze are both based on copper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not a mineable.
No, it's an alloy.
Yeah.
You can't, because copper by itself is not strong enough or durable. Not durable. It's not strong enough to be used, like the Greeks used it for armor and weaponry.
Copper's more malleable. And,
Yeah.
My brother.
You have to harden it. You have to harden it.
My brother-in-law, who was a multi-millionaire, poor Gene is gone now, but he.
So is his money too.
He is no,
Yeah.
not no. But he started to buy stock in copper mines,
Oh yeah.
and he told me about it. Oh, Bill, he says you got to do it.
Well,
And I'm thinking,
Sure thing,
what is he
Bill."
talking about? Yeah. Now here's a guy that makes all his money, soybeans and
Yeah.
it was Gene Cashman.
yeah. Oh, I know. Yeah, I know who you're
And,
talking about.
I thought, that guy's crazy in that.
He wasn't crazy,
He
was
made
he?
millions on that.
Yeah.
Everything he touched, he made millions.
Well, Tom and I, one of the guys from our neighborhood, a year behind us in both grade school and high school, Mike Eckert, he went to Northern, he taught for a while, and he came back. And I wasn't there, but he come back to, you want to tell the story? He came back to the alumni. And,
Yeah, go ahead.
okay. And he says to everybody, he's got this new thing you should invest in. It's going to be a channel where you turn in and you get the weather all the time and stuff.
Oh,
That was
Weather
it.
channel.
He was the CEO when they sold it to NBC.
Well, my favorite how much I know story, I was in Seattle in 1972, and you can probably figure where this is going, and they opened the first store, and they said it's going to sell nothing but coffee. And I said, are you kidding me?
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Said it sells
Never-
nothing but coffee. Yeah, that's going to be real
There's the
successful.
profit
Yeah,
margin.
never going to make it.
Yeah,
Well,
and a premium price, too.
Yeah.
I was in their first shop there, by the way. Yeah, in Seattle.
There's a little eating place right near Arlington Track, and the owner Gus was he liked to play the stocks and that, and I always ate there when I was out in that area, and he said, I asked him one day, I said, well, Gus, how you doing with the, oh, I got some new stuff. And I said, oh yeah, what are you buying? He says, rubber. He says, anything with the rubber in it. And I said, what the hell brought that on? What are you talking
Yeah.
about? That was just when the AIDS thing was coming out. And Gus
Yeah.
made so much money
yeah.
on that, on condoms.
Yeah, right.
That's, he had that idea, and God bless him, he
Yeah.
sold out and he retired somewhere.
Yeah.
in that.
Gus.
Yeah.
Oh, naturally, Gus.
Gus
Gus the Greek.
the Greek.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, at least there's some, happy stories out there. Anyway, it isn't
Are we
doom
done
and
with,
gloom.
Ukraine for now? I hope by the time we meet again that there's a real, well, I doubt very much, any kind of real solution there.
Yeah, by the time we meet again, we'll be talking about the invasion of Poland.
Yeah. Boy, there's a country took a beating. The Poles say that World War II was the war they lost twice. You can imagine.
Yeah.
Here you are, the Germans
point.
invade. It wasn't 2 weeks later. They're
Soviets-
bitter enemies. The
the
communists and
Soviets
Stalin
invade,
invade from the east side and they go back to their
Which
old borders.
never got the attention as everybody knows the Germans invaded
Germans,
Poland. It's
yeah.
not commonly known that the Russians invaded just a couple of weeks later.
Yeah, and
Well,
they
if
went
they-
back to their old borders.
If our president really wanted to do something, he could reinstitute the missile system that they
Which he
pulled
took
out.
away.
Yeah.
He took away, and
Well, see-
Poland is one of our strongest allies. I mean, that was a slap in the face.
Yeah.
We presented a weak approach from the very beginning of this administration. That's why the chickens are coming home to roost now. People say, "Well, what would you do now?" People who defend the administration say, "Yeah, well, what would you talk big?" Well, one thing I would have done is would have had a more effective foreign policy for the last 5 years and projected strength, so that Putin wouldn't have been tempted to do this now.
Somebody
Don't
winked at
think
him
that
before.
Putin and the rest of them don't know that in our yearly or whatever it is buying sprees that we are not buying weaponry.
No, we're
We
downgrading
we
the
are
military,
cutting down
putting ships in
everything
the
in
mothballs.
defense system.
cutting
God
the
bless
size
you.
of the army.
Yeah.
Well, I
It's
mean,
terrible.
all you have to do, you don't have to be a genius or a student to see what happened in Benghazi. Can you imagine that happening? I mean, in years gone by under other. And what did we do about that? First of all, we made up a story to try to cover why we did what we did, and it was a outright, complete lie.
Yeah.
You know,
How long the guy sat in jail
and
for that,
then
too, or
the
just-
bottom line is
Yeah.
we did absolutely nothing about it.
Yeah, we haven't tried or either arrested or tried anybody.
And our
yet.
Secretary of State, what difference does it make?
What do,
Whoa,
yeah,
it's
as-
cold.
Yeah,
the-
yeah.
our future presidential candidate said, what
Yeah.
difference
Yeah.
does it make?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There are people walking the face of the earth that have sodomized a American ambassador and probably boasting about it, and we have done nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And won't do anything. It's
No.
the easiest way. There is no crime, etc. You ignore it. That's all.
Right,
Never-
like you said,
ne-
what difference does it make?
Yeah,
And the
what
thing
difference does it make?
The thing is, if that had happened, it's not this a purely partisan thing, but if that had happened when a Republican was in the White House, the media would still be screaming about it. They would still be demanding answers and demanding an explanation. But when it happens with this administration, it's just forgotten about. It's
I don't
like
think
it never
that,
happened.
I don't think that would have happened if there was a Republican. in
Well,
the
yeah,
White
that's the
House.
other side of the coin. But I'm saying if anything that goes wrong,
Yeah.
he would.
Oh, you
he's-
blame
he's
the
held-
other guy.
The president can't stick his head out the door without being peppered with questions. How did this happen? What happened? What are you going to do about it?
And plus, we had people that were willing to go to their defense and were told to stand down.
Stand down.
I mean, it's shocking. I mean, that's what these guys live for. These special forces
sure.
they
Yeah.
train for.
Guys that
I-
wanted to go,
right, exactly.
ready
I
to
have
go.
thought for years, and in fact, I won't say preached, but said that we send all of these Army people, Army Marines, Navy,
all around.
to war college. And that's exactly what we call it, a
Right.
war college for all of these generals to learn how to defend us and that. And yet, who has the say? The politicians in Washington.
Yeah.
They don't even listen to these guys.
There was a great story. This goes back to the Carter administration. They were having a meeting, and all the State Department, Treasury, they wanted America to get involved and help out a certain country. They wanted, and I don't recall the nation it was, but they wanted to get American involvement in their American money. And they come to the representative from the Defense Department, which was a colonel by the name of Harry Summers, and they say, "Well, you've heard what all these other departments can do. What can the Defense Department do in this country?" And he looked at him. He says, "We can go in there and we can kill people and we can blow things up." And they, "What are you talking about? That's crazy." He said, "What do you think the purpose of the military is?" He said, "We're not a welfare agency. We're not the Salvation Army." He said, "That's our job, to kill people and destroy things in the name of the United States of America. That's what we do."
Donald Rumsfeld said something similar in more recent years. We break things and we kill people.
Yeah.
You look like, what's wrong with you? You know?
Yeah. Remember they were talking about what was that bomb that could
Oh, yeah.
The neutron bomb.
was it neutron
Wouldn't destroy property.
Moab,
But
mother of all bombs, one of those.
yeah, it was the mother of all bombs,
Oh,
you know.
mother. Listen,
The
mother.
Moab, right.
Moab.
Yeah, and there was a spokesman who talking about, well, we may use it over in, I don't know, Afghanistan or someplace, and they said, well, you know, it'll kill, you know. So somebody said, you know, is that all you're thinking about is killing people, and you know, don't you consider the people that you know you might drop it on? He said no. He said.
That decision's made by
He
other
said,
people.
"I don't know if there's a nice way to kill somebody. I'll be honest with you."
Well, that's another thing. I mean, the mood of this country has changed drastically. In World War II, I believe it was Curtis LeMay, the firebombing missions into Japan, they killed like
yeah.
50,000 civilians, and he was applauded.
Yeah,
Sure.
what
Great,
about,
great job. Now they want put Marines on trial for accidentally shooting someone. Like it's
More-
How about the
More
guy that
people died in
ended
the
up, what was he, a senator or something? Down in, that was that general that they put on trial for putting the gun. He didn't kill the guy. He just put the gun in his mouth.
well, there's all kinds of stories
Yeah.
about that. Yeah.
God.
Yeah, John, what you saying?
No, I say more Japanese died in the firestorm bombing of Tokyo than in the atomic
In the
bombing
atomic
of
bomb,
Hiroshima.
yeah.
I mean, in terms of
Yeah.
casualties.
Dresden in Germany.
But
Yeah.
the point
Dresden.
they had the support of the American people. They said, "Hey, let's get this thing over with." Better them than we. I mean,
total war.
The famous Patton line: we had to kill more of them, or what was it? You make them die for their country.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
No,
don't die
no,
for your country.
right.
Make that SOB die for
For
his
his
country.
yeah.
Just
no
like
man ever
with,
won a war by dying for his country.
Right.
You make the other guy die for his.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
with Harry Truman, how many American Allied lives he saved? How many Japanese lives got saved because of Mount
millions,
They would still be
literally.
fighting.
Yeah, no, it
Well,
would.
close.
We
It would.
become too yuppified.
Yeah.
I do like.
Yuppified is just.
I like. I was at a debate once when I was in college, and we were debating the atomic bomb that was dropped on Hiroshima, and one of the representatives of the liberal point of view was talking about how horrible it was that we dropped the atomic bomb and killed all those innocent civilians. And he looked at me and said, "Don't you agree?" I said, "No." He said, "Why not?" I says, "In August of 1945, my father was serving in the 6th Infantry Division. They had just finished in the Philippines, and their division was being refitted. It had been pulled off the front lines. They were being given replacements and refitted for the invasion of Japan. If we had had to invade Japan, my father would have been part of the assault force that would have gone in." I said, "So if we had not dropped that bomb, I probably would, I quite possibly would not be here. My father might not be alive today." And that's true of how many hundreds of thousands of other Americans.
Absolutely.
So no one's ever going to convince me that we made a mistake by dropping the atomic bomb on Japan, and so that my dad did not have to invade and face what they would have faced in trying to conquer.
Right.
Was there a
Japan.
reply to that?
No.
No.
That's a.
Yeah.
And recently, recently I came across they declassified the actual plans for Operation Olympic and Operation Coronet. And my dad's division would not have been in Operation Olympic, which was they were going to land on the island of Kyushu first. Operation Coronet was the main home island of Honshu. My dad's division was going to land between Yokohama and Mount Fuji, and their objective was the city of Tokyo. The 6th Infantry Division was assigned that responsibility.
Yeah.
So, and we know the Japanese would have fought to the death.
To the
They
death.
were prepared to fight with sticks, with swords, with Molotov cocktails.
Kamikaze, yeah.
They would have, and
Yeah.
they would have died by the millions for their emperor.
And they would have kept on.
They would have fought
dying,
and
too.
fought and fought.
Even when the peace came, as it was, and the emperor saying, "I'm not a god, I'm a human," there were a lot of those that went out. What they would do if in Japan, if you are disgraced or whatever, it was bad enough just to take your own life. And they would do this. They'd go out and they'd commit Jack Brickhouse. Oh, I'm sorry, I meant Harry Carey.
Once again, that was Jack Ryan that said that. Well, he's been warned, and he continues to do it.
I escaped from
The
the
rest
home
of
today.
us would like to indicate that the opinion you just heard does not represent the views of the management of this station or of anyone else.
By the way, for you young folks out there, Jack Brickhouse and Harry Carey used to be two sports announcers in our town. And I think maybe we should move on, or should we wait till they had.
They both have statues too.
Should we start?
About all most of them know about Harry Carey is his tavern.
Holy cow! Holy cow!
Ask somebody.
Here's a man
who did he
running
work for
around
before?
third.
He
He never knew
that.
that. He never knew who the player was. So he'd always just listen. He'd always say, "Here's a man rounding third," because he didn't know who it was.
Or he mispronounced the name.
His
tell you
last
what.
name is Yakabuka Gyaku.
Yeah.
Oh, I pronounce it backwards.
Harry was outstanding when him and Jimmy Purcell were together. They were the best thing on
Yeah.
television.
Really?
They were
Jimmy
the best.
Purcell still.
Yeah, he's
is
not
he
doing
still
anything.
around?
Yeah, lives in Lyle, I think. But anyway,
Fear strikes out.
Oh, he
Harry's-
doesn't live in Lyle, does he?
I think so.
Really?
Someone says to him, Harry says to him, "You're crazy, Jimmy." He says, "Yes, I am, Harry. I've got the papers to prove it."
Yeah, right.
It was quite a film they did. I remember seeing that in grade school.
I'm just going to say that was. You remember one of the lines about that?
My father is the reason I'm here where I'm today.
Yeah, right.
He
Yeah.
had it on a couple, just
Yeah.
within the last week or so. They
Yeah.
had him Fear
Yeah.
strikes
Father's
out.
the reason I'm, and he realized.
Yeah, he said it wasn't for my father, I wouldn't be here. And then all
Carl
of a sudden he
Malden
thought,
played his father.
And Tony
Carl
Perkins in the
Malden,
military.
yeah.
Yeah,
And all of a sudden he
that's right.
thought, where the hell am I? I'm
Yeah.
in a nut
It
house.
was really whether or not it was true. He didn't climb the screen either. He said in real life. So
Well, I don't know.
He
I
said
thought
that.
they had a picture of him.
well,
You're going to hear a lot of these
how about
things now.
running the base pass backwards when he did that?
When
For
he
his
when he had
100th homer.
yeah.
His 100th.
You know what? I was out there at a Sox game. I actually There were two different times. The first time I saw him, he was playing shortstop. He came up and he wasn't an infielder. He was an outfielder. But they had him playing
Pearsall.
shortstop.
Yeah.
Pearsall.
Yeah.
The second time, he was in right field, and he was talking. He was standing by the wall, and he was talking to a fan. You know, he's looking up to him and said, "Oh," and he played the game, and then he wasn't evidently going to bat in that half of the inning. He went over to the stands and jumped in and was talking to. I thought, this guy is cracking up. I never saw a player like that, and he was cracking up. You know.
I remember watching. I think it was Memorial Day that they were playing in Sox Park, or Comiskey Park, as I prefer to call it.
Kaminsky.
Comiskey. I say, but he threw a bucket of sand. He went haywire, and they had a bucket of sand in the dugout. He threw the bucket of sand out on the field. Then all of the hats and some of the bats and whatever other paraphernalia started sailing out on the field.
He cleaned out.
I mean, I had never seen any. You're watching this as a kid, and you wonder what is this? What's happening?
Yeah, is this for real?
Yeah,
Is he kidding?
Yeah,
Is he?
yeah.
He even said it.
You don't see that anymore.
No, yeah, isn't that a shame?
I mean,
Hammers
not
might have
just
turned
because
away
of Jimmy
from that,
Pearsall, but
Yeah.
that you'd see that every so often. The bats would go flying out.
A lot of the players, they said, Lefty Grove, if he ever lost a game, which he seldom ever did, they said, don't go into the dugout because he's going to tear it apart. He's going to throw out the water cooler and break in all the...
A lot of bats get broken. A lot
Yeah.
of Gatorade buckets get smashed up. And
Yeah.
How were his statistics as a baseball player? Was he pretty good batting average?
Well, he had a
that sort of thing?
997 overall fielding average for his whole career. I
That's
know that.
excellent.
Really?
What, a 260 hitter or something like that?
Yeah, he was
I don't
journeyman.
recall.
Yeah, no,
guess
okay.
you
That's
call
not
it.
bad.
Yeah.
260.
No,
Great fielder.
Yeah.
no.
Only 100 homers in some of his career, so he didn't have a lot of homers.
You know what? I really don't. Was he a good announcer or was he?
Oh, he was
was a
great.
color. Yeah, I mean,
was
did he
colorful.
tell it like
Yeah.
it was?
Yes.
You know.
Too much so.
Hey,
probably.
you mope! Why didn't you take third? You goof! You know.
Him and Harry were doing a game in Texas. We were watching at my house, a friend of mine, and there's every inning there's a couple of homers. And finally Harry says, "Boy, Jimmy, if either of these teams had any pitching, they'd be dangerous." You couldn't say that today because owners wouldn't like that, would they?
Yeah.
But you have to laugh because you're thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
we
they-
digress.
Yeah.
We do.
We do.
Yes, the Readers Digress. That's a magazine, right? But anyway, we're not quite ready for a break yet. The next segment, folks, we'll finally get down to our subject. We have an hour to talk about our neighborhoods and how they molded us and what we are as good, strong, right-thinking Americans.
Hear, hear.
Males, chauvinists.
Where the I don't see any right thinker. There's
And that,
right
by the way,
thinkers here.
thank you,
I'm far to the right.
Yeah. How far?
Brother Ken Little, for the idea.
Yes.
It was like one of those
Yeah.
great ideas. It was right out there.
I just wish I had something to talk about, but I don't. I mean,
Chicago's often been referred to as the city of neighborhoods. And do we
City of
still have that
neighborhoods.
as a distinct?
It's a beautiful. It's
Oh, Also, the city of parishes.
Hog butcher
Yes.
to the world.
Carl
Stacker of
Sandburg.
wheat.
Yeah.
yeah, stacker of wheat. Yeah.
What else are we?
That
Stacker of
toddling
what?
town.
Wheat.
Yeah. yeah.
Oh,
Like Wheaton, you know?
Oh.
Wheaton.
Yeah.
And
Oh.
toddling.
it's the first time I heard
Where
it
does
called
our
that.
town toddle?
Yeah,
You know where they?
that's
I'd
I
like to
haven't
go
seen-
and.
I've never
City of
seen
Broad
it toddling.
Shoulders, right?
I've never
I'd
seen.
like to
I've
go
never
down
seen
there
the
and watch
city
'em
toddling.
toddle. Yeah.
That sounds like a Flappers era expression.
Chicago, that toddling town.
You know, just to talk about it. Prior to World War II, everybody lived and stayed in their own neighborhood for.
It was a law.
Yeah,
You had to.
I think
you
you
weren't
had to,
permitted, you
yeah.
weren't permitted to leave.
And if you moved a short distance away, and you were like a little south or west of where you were, but you didn't go very far.
Well, yeah,
Well,
you
that-
didn't go. No.
Well, that's what I always tell my friends from Canaryville. I say the people in Canaryville have intermarried so much they've bred a race of genetic morons.
Hey, my father was from there.
I know that.
That's,
I still say it.
yeah.
How did that? Were there wild canaries in that area?
That's
how,
it,
how
right.
heard of it.
There's
Why it was
another
that-
theory.
Right.
No,
That's one.
I don't think so.
The other one is it was a corruption of Canaryville, being the packing houses.
I've heard
Okay.
that
I don't know
one.
which one.
No,
was
you know
for
what?
real.
I really think it was a joke that the birds they always sit on wires and chirp, etc. And somebody said, "Hey, look at them birds there. Those aren't birds. Those are canaries. That's a
boys,
canary singing to us." But it was a bunch of sparrows.
Well, I was working with a guy, and he came.
Sparrowville, wasn't it?
Sparrowville.
He
Yeah.
came. You know if I mention the name. Is he dead yet? Can I mention his name? No, not yet.
No.
He was dead years ago. Brain dead.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're in Marquette Park. He just came over there, and sun up. And I said, "Oh, look, goldfinches." He goes, Who gives a blank? You know, well, you know, it's nice to know one of these makes observation. You know, something. There's some people for you.
Yeah.
Where is it that the parrots, the wild parrots, go? Is that around Hyde Park
There's
somewhere?
There was
if you,
one,
You
yeah.
Google that one. That's true.
Yeah.
There's some. This species of parrot
Of parrots,
is from
yeah.
they're up in the Andes too somewhere, so they got some hardiness.
Right.
And they're in Chicago. I was telling the family, yeah, there's a bunch of them over the house. Yeah, right.
They live and breed
Yeah,
here.
I don't.
yeah.
You know, I've been by the. You know, the park now is. It used to be called East End Park. It's now called Harold Washington Park. 'Cause
Where's
you
that?
lived across the street, 53rd and Hyde Park.
Right
Oh,
on the
okay.
drive.
You know, east of
Yeah.
there, and
Yeah.
they think that they escaped, Chief, from, you know, like a packing case or something at Midway Airport.
There's a lot of
Oh,
them now.
Yeah, and then they're building
They,
houses.
they breed in that
breed,
area.
but I don't know if they're still there.
Yeah.
Are they?
They huddle around some. Edison has some kind of a generator or something. They
Oh.
build nests around that over
yeah.
there.
Oh, it's warm.
Yeah, I was born over there, so I should know.
Really?
That-
Were
that-
you born?
That area was
Well, again-
also, if we can remember, the Nike sites.
Oh,
Yeah.
sure.
Oh, the
That's
Nike.
Yeah,
air
yeah.
defense
That was one, yeah, that was one right. There was
Yeah.
there was a Nike site right there.
The
There
Nike
was a Nike
Ajax
site
and the
on,
Nike Hercules.
in fact, I made a response card for it. It was on 63rd Street there. It's called Hayes Drive, east of Stony Island, and it was on Hayes Drive just before you got to Lakeshore Drive.
side?
Yeah, it was a Nike site, yeah.
Well, what about the one up north?
They
was that
had-
around,
They had one at Montrose.
Montrose, I think, yeah.
Montrose.
Orland Park.
somewhere around there, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, folks, for you young folks out there, we're not talking about gym shoes. Nike was an anti-aircraft missile, which is now obsolete. Am I correct? Isn't it?
Right.
They're out
There was
there.
the Nike Ajax, and then the follow-on was the Nike Hercules.
Yeah.
Sounds right.
And you could probably build one as a model. And I think we're bringing. Are we about down to break time, John? Oh, John.
Oh, John.
Oh,
John,
the show is. Go.
We'll be right back to our discussion following this short intermission.
Hey, friends. Do you need an awning over your front, side, or back door? Or your windows? How about a canopy for your carport? Or a patio cover over your patio so you can enjoy being outside in case of rain? All you have to do is call Awnings and More, and Raphael Bogus will drive over, measure up whatever you need, and go from there. You can call Awnings and More at area code 773-710-8403 or 847-890-1447. So if you need awnings for your windows or doors, call Raphael Bogus at Awnings and More at area code 773-710-8403 or 847-890-1447. Now, Raphael also installs hand railings for your front, side, or back steps. You must be safe when you go up and down the steps, especially in bad weather. So for awnings or handrails, call Raphael Bogus at area code 773-710-8403 or 847-890-1447. Again, awnings and more. For awnings and handrails, call Raphael Bogus at 773-710-8403 or 847-890-1447.
John, we
we took up
Thank
a
you very
collection
much.
and we gave it all to Jack to buy your present. So
And there's
expect that.
a Hershey bar in the in the mail.
Well, yes, Lent is over. You can eat all the chocolate you want. Go.
Now back to Meet the Chicago Historians. Jack?
I hope you folks are enjoying this because we're having a very good time today, and I hope it's being recorded. Going out, it would be a shame, wouldn't it? Okay,
We'll have to
John just gulped in there.
take
oh, who wants to go? Now, the topic of the day, which we have about an hour to which to address this, is our neighborhoods and how they made us into what we are today. Who wants to start? Any volunteers?
Ken?
Well, I can volunteer if you
your
want.
idea.
Sure.
Makers up, makers down.
Yeah. First off, I grew up at 15. I lived at my parents lived at 1529 North Cleveland, North Side for you South Siders. You know, it's north of Garfield Boulevard. And that's the line between the North and South Side, by the way. Garfield Boulevard. Yeah. And but a couple of things that were sort of characteristic. When you start talking about the neighborhood, and you say, "Oh, we're all poor. Nobody had any money. Nobody moved in. Nobody moved out." But you know what was there? There were a lot of advantages that we had there. For example, I had a Catholic grammar school, a Catholic high school, and a firehouse, all in one block, the 1600 block of North Hudson.
What was the parish?
St. Michael's. It's called St. Michael's in Old Town now. They're still there. The grammar school's gone. The high school is now condos, and the firehouse is at Larrabee and Division. But it was there for me. So for 12 years, I lived 2 blocks away from those facilities, you know. North Avenue in those days, from Clark Street all the way to really Halsted Street, both sides of the street were stores. So anything you wanted, if you had the money, most people didn't have the money, you could go out and buy anything you wanted, you
There
know.
weren't a lot of these independent shops that were, right?
Well, there were, but, there were a lot of small. In fact, I can remember at the corner of North and Cleveland, the building was still there, southeast corner, A&P set up their first grocery store. And that stands for
Atlantic and Pacific
Atlantic
Tea
and Pacific Tea Company.
Yeah.
And it was a one-story building, and it was the first store that I ever went to that had a shopping cart, you know, and you went out and you picked up items that you wanted to check out on your own. Prior to that time, you walked into a store and you handed the clerk a list of things, and then he would put it, you know, he'd grab something from here and grab something from there and go in the back room and grab here, you know.
Not to interrupt you, but
Yeah.
that's where the expression "a can of corn" comes from.
Can of corn.
For
Right,
baseball.
right, knocking the can off. If someone couldn't reach it,
Catch it in a basket.
the merchant would hold his apron. He'd
Oh,
knock it off and he'd catch
that-
it in his apron.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's because I know Hawk Harrelson uses
Right,
that.
and
Yeah.
so it meant just an easy catch.
Yeah.
A can of corn.
Ken,
So-
what do they call that gizmo that they would grab cans from? A
Yeah,
grabber?
I got one of those in our store.
I
Yeah.
can't-
Long pole.
Long
They call
pole.
them
Would,
actually- I
yeah.
don't remember what-
Yeah. I don't know what it was, but I remember there.
Pipe pole.
A pike pole with prongs. In fact, I'll never forget. We had a Hex meat market, and I was in there, and the guys, you know, picking out a few things, and they have a big barrel there full of peanuts. So I'm dipping into the peanuts, you know, and the clerk comes over and he just goes like this, you know, you didn't say anything, you know, it's like, hey, that's for sale. This isn't a freebie for you. So I mean, half a block, and to top it off, I had 4 sets of elevated tracks, which are still there. So we had an L station at Larrabee, we had an L station at Sedgwick, which is still is viable, and so you could go anywhere. My parents never owned a car, and we lived there for 20 years, really. I was born in 32, so I lived there till 52, and then they had accumulated some money. And bought a 2-flat, you know, up around Kedzie and Waveland, you know. But so we finally moved out of the neighborhood. But in the meantime, my brother and I had gone to high school. He was in the service at the time. He was over in Japan and, the occupation there. And in a few short years, I was over in Fort Lewis, Washington, because I got drafted. We had the draft to look forward to, and that was something that people today don't have, to look forward to. And it did interrupt our lives, So, and then I had a community house called the Olivet, which was only a block away. So, and they had a branch of the public library, So there were a lot of facilities, close to me.
Right close by.
Right close. We had a police station. Hudson Avenue was at 8.
Where was that now?
Pardon?
Where exactly was that?
It was at 1501 North Hudson. Hudson and Blackhawk.
Right.
Really nice building, nice people.
Is that gone? The station?
Yeah, the station's gone.
I heard people talk about it. Did it get merged into 18 or something? Then?
I don't know if it did or not. I think they tore it down, really.
But the territory was taken away.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure it was. 'Cause
Yeah.
That's 18 now.
Yeah, 18 is now at Larrabee and very across street from the firehouse. And then, hanging around the firehouse is where I got my, love with the fire department, fire alarm, And so there were a lot of opportunities that were, One thing that was sort of maybe a little bit unique, there were very few liquor stores there. Patty Bowler had his... Well, and that building is still there, 403 West North
Chicago
Avenue.
ready for reform yet?
No, Chicago. No, he wasn't. He was never ready for reform.
He might have controlled the competition.
Right.
He was always described as
That'd be
the,
my guess.
he was called the last of the saloon keeper aldermen.
Him and Charlie Weber. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, I suppose if you wanted to open up a tavern, you'd say, well, you gotta have licenses, and we sell them, and But no, there really wasn't. There was. Now we did have Siebens Brewery 2 blocks away.
Which one?
Siebens,
Okay.
Sieben, and they catered to.
Fireman.
They catered to.
A lot of time spent there.
Taverns and liquor stores, but they sold in either barrels or quarts, but there was no canning.
But Ken, other than St. Malchus Parish, were you giving your neighborhood the designation of Old Town in those days?
No, it wasn't. It was called Northtown.
Northtown. That's
Northtown, yeah,
hear
yeah,
that.
and they had the Northtown local paper was a Northtown Economist and Northtown.
World Telegram.
Yeah, and but it was a friendly neighborhood. I never got into 20 years, never got into a fist fight. South of me was all Italian. North of me was all German. We were Irish, so we were, just really a minority there. Really? And when my brother and we start talking about it, and it starts out, well, we were poor, we didn't have any money. I didn't have any. Next thing you know, we had all the facilities. Everything you ever wanted was there.
But what you just said, I think no one knew you were as poor as you were. Am I correct?
Yeah. We were all
didn't know it.
No, we were all.
Everybody's
Yeah,
in the same boat.
that's right,
Yeah.
Chief. We were all in the same boat.
Yeah.
We're, nobody.
And no one was out there telling you how poor you were either.
No. And I remember the war year, and another thing too, I never saw a building being built.
No.
While I was there, except at A&P, but and that was just prior to the war. I think it was
We should think of
41.
downtown Chicago.
One thing you learned through the assessor's office is that they determine all construction is before 1929 and after 1945, because essentially nothing was built between first the Depression and then World War II. So those are the categories they have for construction: before 1929 and after 1945.
Yeah.
That's very true.
And then when I got to, stand watch in the fire department, fire alarm office, we had 5 firehouses in the battalion. All of them were built in the horse-drawn days. And only one of them stands now, and that's it's at 1244 North Wells. It's like a hairstylist, etc.
What's that? Not a firehouse anymore, right?
No, it's not a firehouse anymore. And they replaced basically all those houses with 2 firehouses, But it was a wonderful education, But as time went on, as the 60s, late, Cabrini, Green was already, Cabrini rather was there. That's the row houses south of, Chicago Avenue to Oak Street, etc. And then Green started to, so we started to get people coming up Cleveland to go to the store.
I remember Cabrini Green from the Ed Sullivan Show.
Oh, yeah?
Green was the goofy one.
Once again, that's Jack Ryan.
Yeah.
Been severely mourned.
Yeah.
And he doesn't get paid for this either.
Yeah.
None of us do.
And the other thing, too, coming from a religious community, all the teachers were, in societies, the church is still run by the Redemptorist priest who do not take the vow of...
Oh, he's ordered priest.
Order priest,
We
yeah.
have Redemptorists at my parish.
Is that
You have
right?
what is the name of the church?
St. Michael's. St. Michael's in Old Town.
I'll have to ask them about it.
What's the name of...
St. Mary of Chenstohova
Oh,
in
okay.
Cicero, and we have
Cicero?
Redemptorist
I
priests.
just heard you
Yeah.
mentioned by somebody recently.
I didn't realize they
What-
were
what
out. They
don't
weren't
they
out
take-
there years ago.
No, they've been there for about the last 10 or 15 years. 15 years,
Yeah.
yeah.
What vow don't they take, Ken?
No, they
Revenge.
do take the vow of, maybe I didn't say it right, the vow of poverty. So
Oh.
you can't bribe them. In other
The order
words,
priest.
Archdiocesan priests don't
Secular,
take,
they call 'em, yeah.
secular don't
Secular.
take
Like, what's his name? Father,
vow of poverty.
Yeah.
just died recently, the author. What's his
Oh,
name?
Father
yeah,
Greeley.
yeah, yeah, Father
Greeley.
yeah.
Greeley.
Yeah, Greeley.
Yeah.
Horace
He had a
Greeley.
pad in here's serious talk, but he could keep his money for all of his.
He had a place
Yeah.
in Arizona,
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, anyway, so they took they didn't have an automobile. You'd see the priests riding those streetcars, etc. The nuns, school sisters in Notre Dame, taught the grammar school, both boys and girls. And then we had the Brothers of Mary, who were from, originally from Europe. Their only high school in Chicago was St. Michael's. And
We can have a whole story about having nuns in grade school, can't we? A whole episode.
well, you know what? It was a good I can still remember. It's funny you don't remember the what they taught, but you do remember the teachers. And different. One of the things I took. I'm going to take a real easy class. I'm going to take typing. Turns out to be the best thing I ever took.
Yes,
I wrote
yeah.
4 books. I was able to type it. It's like riding a bicycle. Once you learn, you
I
never
went
forget.
to St. George, and I thought, what with the typing and that, I thought,
Yeah,
what
it's a
the hell am I
sissy
ever
class.
going to do with this?
Yeah.
Yeah, women take typing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
women
Yeah.
take, yeah.
Sure, we had an extra class, and I had typing, and I did the same thing. But you know what? Along come the computers. It's got the same keyboard.
Same keyboard, I
Might
know.
not be very good, but I know where they are.
QWERTYUIOP.
QWERTY up,
yeah.
QWERTY up or something.
QWERTY.
And also, the high school had a job placement, and I wound up they placed me in downtown Benzinger Brothers, which was a religious goods store around Washington, the 200 block, 211 or something. And then eventually I went to work for a Buick agency, and I was my own boss. I could do whatever. Came in, punched the clock, left when I wanted to. Went next door, watched the big fire at
You sound like a
320.
policeman.
Yeah. Oh. But no, it was. I didn't make my. I started at a quarter an hour or something like that.
Yeah.
I was writing cards and calling
And you
people.
left that job?
And I left that
What is
job.
wrong with
Yeah.
you?
Yeah.
You have a head examined.
Yeah.
You know what? And a lot of these schools, probably most of them, wanted to teach you a trade, whether it was a car repair, even
Yeah.
car repair
Yeah.
in some of them.
Oh,
in
yeah.
high schools.
Yeah.
But they wanted you to get out in the trade.
I know. Well, eventually when Alice and I got settled, we had 10 kids. 8 of them went to Lane Tech. But we were
There you go.
and I've been in my house for 50 years. Right down Addison and Cicero,
Yeah.
Take the one bus. And that was another thing. We had one car, so there were no prima donnas. Oh, I got to go here. You got to drive me here. Yeah, hey, take the bus. Come on.
And where did your daughter? You have the one daughter? Where did
I
she
have
go to
3
school?
daughters.
3 daughters. Now, where do they go to school?
2 of them went to Lane, and the last one.
that recent. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
and
okay.
one of them went to
Thought you were
good
older than
counsel.
that. Interesting.
Yeah.
So they went
Yeah.
to Lane. Got it.
What happened? The schools changed, but it wasn't so much it was the sort of the teachers rather than the integration, whatever. Lane integrated, and it's still a great
It was
school.
also
I
all
guess
boys at one time, wasn't it?
it was
Oh,
all
yeah, that's what I'm
boys.
thinking
Yeah,
of, yeah.
In
Yeah.
fact,
Yeah, Lane and CVS were both all boys.
And Tilden, I believe, too.
Yeah, is that right? Yeah, yeah.
Holden.
It
Yeah.
got changed in the 70s, I want to say, Lane Tech, Lane Co-ed.
It probably
After
was.
Gordon
yeah.
Tech moved in the area.
Yeah. Yeah, you see, Gordon Tech is going to change their name to
They
DePaul.
already
Oh,
done
they
it.
already
got
done
signs
it.
up there
Fall in
now.
there,
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
A lot of
says,
them I don't like that, man.
It
No.
says what is it now?
DePaul College Prep
No,
or
it sa-
something like that.
It
isn't it?
says
Name there.
I can't think of what it is.
No, DePaul is part of the name. At least that's
Yeah,
what was
yeah,
in the
it is,
paper.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
But it's like Gordon / DePaul
yeah.
Something like that.
preparatory
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
So the bottom line is, it was, when I look back, wonderful vacation. Not vacation,
Yeah, well,
vocation.
Preparation.
Because preparation.
Growing up.
Yeah.
Formative years.
Because everything was there.
Yeah.
Has
I mean,
it,
if
do you
I
think
went-
that neighborhood has changed much, Ken?
Yeah, it has, and because I after I retired, I was a volunteer usher full time, really, and the priest used to say 25% of the parish moves in the the spring, and 25% move out in the fall, and the boys meet the girls, and then if they're going to get married, etc. They stay in the parish for a couple of years. They have a couple of kids, and boom, out into the suburbs.
Yeah.
Vive la
so,
différence.
yeah, and it's so crowded, now in comparison to where I'm at. We didn't have a garage. Also, another thing too that was sort of interesting. Many of the property there, they had rear buildings. So you have a little brick bungalow, four rooms, etc. in the back, and so.
What do you think were in those? You think that those were servants at one time, or
Well, I've read that
Maybe
in some cases
stalls
it
or-
started, with the cottage, and they move it to the back and then put in like a 2-flat or
Yeah,
a bigger
yeah.
building.
I just and not off that, but it just dawned on me that I was talking to a guy here yesterday about brass ball corners, 45 and 50 up near Paddock Lake.
Oh,
And my uncle Charlie had
Oh.
a place up there, and he
Yeah.
lived up there. And when my dad would take me and visit Charlie at Paddock Lake, we would eventually go over to Lake Ivanhoe,
well,
which was just right down 50 towards Lake Geneva.
hmm
And we'd turn in there. Now, you know what that land is like up there and who's up there. And you would think that you were at 35th and King,
yeah,
because that's where all of the Lake Geneva millionaires and the big money people bought that land for their servants.
oh,
And it was all black.
Yeah.
The whole place was black.
we
Sweet Pea.
Oh,
Henderson.
Sweet Pea
Tom
Henderson, sure, I remember,
That's
yeah.
who we used to visit up there.
Yeah.
And people just don't believe that, and it's still like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
It's still like
We
that.
didn't really have a black colony, although there's a Mount Hermon church on Clark Street and just north of the Historical Society, and that was for the servants, I guess.
Okay.
And
There was an
don't-
AME church right around Cabrini, too. There was some markings, African Methodist Episcopal. Well,
yeah,
African Methodist Episcopal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I never
Yeah.
really got, the Caprini had such a bad reputation. They were shooting there every night, shooting from Orleans Street to Engine 4, and they had to replace all the glass, if you recall, in Engine.
Yep.
They used something called Lexon because the bullets would bounce off, and
That's what they were using in the schools.
Yeah.
And
Then
the windows.
they found some kind of plexiglass. The gang punks found out that after a couple of days, they couldn't smash them. They could
They'd
burn them with
burn
a,
'em.
with a railroad flare.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, do you remember the two policemen that got killed?
Severin.
Sergeant Severin and Patrolman Rosado.
Yeah, yeah, and we still have the facility at 1044 North Orleans, which is, oops,
Mr. DeVita, sir.
John.
You
You're talking about Engine 4's house over there shooting. One night I was with Engine 56 over at Berry and Levitt, and there was an extra round fire down in the loop area, and Engine 56 had to change quarters to the Engine 4. So I rode the rig. We get to Engine 4, and my father-in-law, who was a lieutenant, Lieutenant John Satarsky, he was a lieutenant on Engine 56. When we backed into the house, he says to me, "John, whatever you do, don't go on this side of the engine." stay on the other side.
Yeah.
And I said, for what reason? All of a sudden, boom!
Yeah.
And there was a bullet that went right through the window.
Yeah.
And if I would have been standing there, I probably would have been hit.
Would have been.
Yeah.
There's so many
Yeah.
stories about that place.
Yes,
You know,
yes.
So many stories about
Yeah.
it. And yet, when I left Gene Cashman's wake, he was wake just east of there.
Where was he
on
waked at, do you
LaSalle.
recall?
Yeah,
Oh.
I forget the name of that
Oh.
funeral home. But anyway, I had to go. It was right after I had the operation, and I was in no mood to be doing anything
be
except
hassled,
just saying
yeah.
hello and goodbye. And I was going down Division, and I went by this firehouse, and here the doors are open, and there's chairs out in front, and a couple of white firemen sitting in the chairs and having a smoke and
Yeah.
and that, and I thought, where the hell am I?
Yeah. Yeah.
I didn't realize that it was it's all yuppified around there, and you
it's
can do it.
gentrified.
What a change!
You know what?
a
I
change.
just drove by there the other day. Just west of the firehouse is a brand new Target store
There you go.
at Larrabee and Division.
That's
across
a new
the street
meaning
from the
for
police station.
Target around there. Then, isn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
There goes the neighborhood.
But I'll tell you, that was a tough neighborhood when I was a kid. It was
Oh,
all
yeah,
Italian, and you went down there, they beat the hell out of you just for walking through their neighborhood. So I didn't chase fire south of Division Street.
I want to say something about these
Yeah.
multi-story, 15 and 16-story or 17-story
Yeah.
buildings, and I think Tom would probably agree with me.
You mean the projects?
Yeah,
A little-
projects.
As a little 21-year-old on the job, when I looked at these, I
You
said,
were little at one time.
well, little bit by comparison.
Oh, okay.
Everything is relative, right?
Yeah, right.
If you got the right relative, you can do
Yeah,
anything.
if you have the right
You do it with
relatives, you
murder.
can do
But,
whatever you want.
But I looked at there and I said, why don't they have controlled access hallways? Closed up, tight. Somebody at the desk, somebody in security, a buzzing system would have eliminated so much of that stuff. It would have been much cheaper in the long run just to do that. Of course, they didn't consult me.
No,
So we're just going to say you weren't around then. Ken.
ultimately they did.
I was
Though
in grade
they,
school, I think.
Jack, they did have
Yeah,
they
security
tried it, but it
at,
was-
at the
it
first
was a
floor
little-
level.
Yeah, but the
Too,
horses.
too little, too late.
Yeah.
Well, those buildings were never designed to be policed. When they do all the planning for
Yeah.
these buildings, and they do a lot of it, then the crime aspect never entered into the picture.
Yeah.
Hold up a bus on State Street and run into the building. It's sanctuary, sanctuary. It's like right into outlaw town. Who knows where they went?
Yeah,
I'm not. That's not to rap on all the people there because
yeah.
so many of the residents were like prisoners in the place anyway.
Yeah. I was over at Engine 4's house one day, and they get a fire right across the street from the firehouse, like 1117 Cleveland. That fire's on the 5th floor, and they got a working fire. You know what they did? They raised the ladder, and they ran a hose up the ladder, and they put the fire out from outside. And I said, well, why don't you normally go on the inside? He said, there's no fittings there. He said, there's no
They're all-
brass
they're
there.
all
That's-
lost.
It's all lost. It's all gone. He said, so if we can get the hook and ladder
The
in there,
ladder,
we
yeah.
attack it from the outside. Then they drop a rope down, pull a line up, and then they wash it down with that. So
The stories that would come out of people that worked in the projects.
Oh,
that-
yeah.
oh my God.
Unbelievable.
No,
but that was beyond me. I mean, that was 4 blocks away, and it was far enough that it really never.
The first
affected
beat
me.
that I worked was 43rd to 47th, state to federal.
Oh boy,
you're right
only a
there,
block.
too.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
saying.
The garden spot.
Yeah,
well, you
yeah.
did the
Chicago
same
Police
thing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Why did you get such a good location?
Cloud, favoritism,
Yeah, right.
nepotism.
You were at Wabash Avenue then in those
Yeah,
days.
Wabash
or whatever?
Avenue.
Yeah.
And you know what?
I
I'm
never
glad I
saw
was there.
that station. Never. I never saw that station.
Oh, well,
Lucky. I wish I never saw that station. There was a sign there.
But actually, it was the best place to start because everywhere around us, you're going up in the world.
You remember going just to digress a second when they had Senator Estes Kefauver had his
Kefauver Commission.
Crime.
hearings on organized crime, and
Yeah.
the captain there was a guy named Mackenzie Blewett.
Yeah.
Do you
right,
remember
yeah.
him? I don't know if he was
Before
still
our
there.
guy.
You know what he said?
Well,
He said, my district has got a bigger population than the state of Utah, and I have like 6 patrolmen
Yeah.
on midnights.
yeah. That's
You
right.
know, and you know,
They said 200 and some thousand. I said, what? You look around, people everywhere. And then every
oh,
week,
yeah.
it was.
Well, there were beats in that district that were like 3 blocks long and 2 blocks wide, and they had more crime than like 30 entire states in the union.
Yeah.
They had like 5 or 6 murders and robberies, rapes,
Oh.
and in a small little area.
Our busiest engine when I was a kid was engine 45 at 4600 Cottage Grove, 4600 Cottage Grove.
Right.
So I was looking at stats one time, and you see they had over 100,000 people living in their district. Now 100,000 people out in Oak Park, Evanston, whatever, that's Naperville. That's a lot of people. This was in one engine district. They had over 100,000 people.
Which would extend from where, like?
39th to 51st from South Park or King Drive
South
to
Park.
the lake. Yeah, they had 100.
Do you remember Big Bob Peterson?
No.
He was on the executive board at one time
Oh.
of Local 2, and we were at a seminar or a meeting, whatever it was, and the subject was protective clothing, that type of thing. And of course, anybody out in California, Arizona, they don't wear hip boots like we do.
They know the other,
that type of thing. And,
Yeah.
and
They wear
I
galoshes.
remember that, and Bob was a big man too. He was a big guy, and spent all of his time down in the ghetto. The guy sitting next to him was from, somewhere in
Lower Slobovia.
and he was complaining about all of this stuff, and Bob finally had it. You could just see the temperature.
The temperature rising.
In his body. And he got up and he said, "Say, you little blank."
Yeah.
He said, "I got more blank people in one of my buildings than you have in your whole state."
Yeah.
He says, "And we have something called snow."
Yeah.
The guy
Yeah.
he melted.
Yeah, we can't. Yeah.
It looks like time.
Oh, time.
Wait.
Okay,
We're
I'm
good.
finished.
Okay.
Our panel will be right back.
Well, friends, now that spring is finally here, now is the time to think about your roof, siding, and gutters on your home or place of business. We could get some very heavy rainstorms in the next few months, so be sure the roof, siding, and gutters are in good shape. You don't want mold or mildew in your attic or crawl space, or you don't want drip, drip, drip on the ceilings in your rooms, or have walls damaged by a leaky gutter or bad siding. So don't have double expense. Sooner or later you're going to have to get them repaired. So call Best Brothers Roofing, Siding, and Gutters at area code 630-616-1359. Mike Besh will drive over in his shiny red truck with ladders on top and Best Brother Roofing signs on the doors. Mike will look over your roof, siding, and gutters, give you an estimate, and go from there. So once again, don't have double expense. Call Best Brothers Roofing for a free estimate at area code 630-616-1359. That's Best Brothers Roofing, Siding, and Gutters at area code 630-616-1359. Call today for a free estimate. Area code 630-616-1359.
We're back. We're back. Sorry, Gubernator.
The Jews have got about
Gable's back and Garson's got
And guess what? We're going to continue this this item of discussion, this subject, next time, and that is very interesting. We don't rush anybody, but next up is our announcer, Rich Lang.
Oh, I thought we said we're back.
Yeah, we are back.
So we are back. Okay.
Yeah, are back. And it's your turn about neighborhoods and how it made you into the man you are.
Oh, it's hard to say. Well, I was just thinking more of the overall history. Once people stopped walking to their stores and started taking the streetcar, bus, and driving, a little lessening of the neighborhood identity. Then you had, in the 50s, the so-called expressway system building. So I'm wondering to what extent that speeded what I think we all agree is sort of the, not the death, the loss of power, the diminution of the Chicago neighborhoods.
Deterioration, kind
Yeah,
of?
yeah.
I think it had a lot to do with
I
it,
think-
Rich.
yeah, okay.
After the war, somebody mentioned here that they hook up with the lucky lady and have kids and move out to the suburbs, and that was the
Growth of
birth
suburbia.
of the suburbs.
That's right,
yes.
yeah. But even within the city, I think you see a certain loss of neighborhood identity, too.
And then we had the phenomena of the suburban shopping mall.
That's right.
You know, that was
95th and Western.
We also had the phenomena of the racial phenomena of neighborhoods turning the minorities taking over and the people moving out.
I don't think.
I remember when I was growing up, I was the same neighborhood that John was. John was on like the Fringe. He was all the way over on Damon.
I'm always
I
on
was
the
at
Fringe.
63rd and Hermitage. And I remember it really was, I mean, it was your own little world. I walked to St. Theodore, which was, 2.5 blocks away on Plina. And you knew everyone in the neighborhood. And I remember distinctly, well, we didn't have a car till I was probably 13 or so. So we did everything on the bus, and but I remember distinctly when it was, I think it was the Sextons, they moved out of our neighborhood to Southwest Highway in Kedzie, and I remember distinctly, I'd say, well, we'll never see them again. I mean, and it was only 3 or 4 miles away.
Yeah.
But if you moved out of our neighborhood was basically from Ashland to Damon, and from 60th or 59th to 67th, and that was it. That was your whole world.
Exactly, yeah.
So what about the schools, Rich? And what were the schools in your neighborhood? What were they? Where did you go, or what schools nearby? Or
Well, I went to high school at Steinmetz, public school, Oethorpe. I was more of a public school guy.
yeah, okay.
But you had the parochial schools. But let's see, one thing crossed my mind.
Grade school was where?
Oethorpe.
Is it still there?
Oh, yeah. It's an academy now.
What was the name?
O.A. Thorpe, or some say Ole A. Thorpe, Thorp.
Ole? It is Ole?
West side of Austin between Irving and Addison.
It's still there.
Not too far from where they built the real Wright College.
Where was that?
That was on Austin, south of Addison, around Newport, Roscoe. Yeah.
Where is it at now?
Now it's at Nagel and Montrose, or Narragansett and Montrose.
Narragansett, okay. Okay, now,
Dunning.
Yeah, the old Dunning area.
so what did they call your neighborhood? Is it a particular name or more than one
Well,
name?
most often Portage Park.
Okay.
Portage Park,
And
yeah.
Portage Park is right there.
Yeah.
That big park when there's
Central and Irving. Right.
yeah, beautiful
right.
park, isn't it? It still was.
It is.
Still
Oh,
is.
yeah,
They got a big fence around it now. It's still
They
a
do.
beautiful park. Well used. I see a lot of activity
Don't
going
let
on
people
there.
in. They got a fence. And
So let the-
nobody's
No,
permitted
you can
in.
get in, you can't get out. No,
They lock the
it's,
gates.
it is really, it's well attended
Big
and it's well
big
kept.
field
By
house there, I believe,
invitation
right?
only.
Yeah, there's a field house and a natatorium, swimming pool. You have two distinctive buildings there.
Now what? So what was particular about the area? Did you have scouts or clubs or YMCA or boys?
Oh
clubs
yeah,
or-
I was for me. Cub Scouts were very big.
Yeah.
I was never much of an outdoorsman, so I never stayed much with the Boy Scouts. I needed my morning shower. That kind of, you can't camp out.
They also held the Olympics there one year, didn't they?
Yeah, they built
Yeah.
the Olympic swimming pool in '59, I believe, at
59
Portage Park.
Well, that was
Yeah,
Pan American Games.
that's right.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
That's
they
right.
had
That's
TWA
right.
had their own games the following week.
they had.
That wasn't Jack Ryan that said that.
I was going to say that wasn't me, folks, but it took a second to.
And we had always a good ethnic mix in the neighborhood. A lot of Germans, Poles, Italians. As in so many parts of Chicago, now the trend is more and more Hispanic. But we still have an identity, a remnant of the old ethnic diversity in Portage Park.
So, but was that heavily settled by Germans at one time, or
I think more Germans than any other group, yeah.
that's what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
I heard there was a period when it was blue laws were very running into the face of Germans who like their beer on Sundays too.
Oh, yeah.
So do I. So
Well,
I
I think when I was
Yeah,
a kid,
we have-
there were a lot more taverns in the neighborhood than there are now. They've
Yeah.
really cut back on liquor licenses and
Yeah.
liquor
The
establishments.
neighborhood
Yeah.
tavern. What a
Well, that was
Right.
meeting
That was
place.
the community center.
it was your
Right.
meeting place. You went and
Yeah.
had a few beers and talked to people. Now you
yeah.
got
When I
two
right.
TVs on the radio or something.
When I grew up at 63rd and Hermitage, there were 3 taverns on the corner at 63rd and Hermitage.
Wow.
And another tavern on the corner east of that.
11s.
Yeah, right. And right, it was like the neighborhood social club.
I wonder how many of these taverns welcomed women in the old
Yeah.
days. Maybe not that many. I don't know.
Unless a woman had a stick and was after the old man to come.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
was
the
it no
fetish of home,
unescorted
yeah,
women?
right,
wasn't,
right.
Wasn't that a big thing? No unescorted women?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you right.
That's right.
You
You know
know,
that German population
you know-
was all around Lincoln and Lawrence.
Lincoln Ashland,
Yeah,
Belmont
oh,
was
yeah.
the big German
Ashland, that
commercial
was
center.
all-
when I
yeah,
was a
what
kid.
was
the what was that German the Call or the Lincoln Turner? Was that the big German
The
social
Turners.
club?
That
The
was
Turners?
up
Yeah.
on. Was that on?
Diversity
Diversity.
and just
Oh.
west of Sheffield, they're still there.
They're still there, right?
And they,
Turners?
yeah, the Lincoln. Well, it was Lincoln Turners,
Yeah.
but
I thought they were more Slavic. I might be wrong about that.
They-
Yeah.
But
There were a
anyway,
lot-
they
they might become
had
Slavic,
they
yeah.
they had they were like gymnasiums,
Oh,
really.
yeah. There were a lot of social clubs.
Yeah.
Around the city.
Craft sport? I mean, strength sport? Or like gymnastics and weightlifting and stuff too? No?
Whatever.
I was never in there. You know, a block from my house, by the way, was the Larrabee Y, and they sponsored a lot of, you know, dances and stuff
Right.
like
Yeah.
that. And we were told, no, it's a religion. You can't go in there. Well, bullshit. You know, we went in there.
Swear box.
No, there were, and they call them social clubs.
Yeah.
I mean, like the
Rogers
YMCA?
Park Social
Yeah, at the
Social Club,
YMCA, yeah.
Yeah.
Remember I asked Father, who's your friend? Father was here,
George Lane.
yeah.
Yeah.
I asked him, my father wrote this business about joining the YMCA. He said, well, I got one in my card in my pocket.
Yeah.
I always thought that there was someone in the Catholic Church who was kind of jealous that they didn't think of the idea first.
That could be, but there again was that was in it was a block from my house, you know.
Yeah.
So
So the heavily settled German around Lincoln Avenue, to this day, is that still German? Or?
No, that's nearly all Hispanic now.
Is it?
That's really
Hispanic, yeah.
changed. You
No,
have
my-
maybe a little few Germans around Lincoln Square.
My
up
mother,
north
by the
on
way, I'm
Lawrence
proud
and
to say,
Lincoln.
was a good German Lutheran girl who married this Irisher from. She was in Fuller Park side of the tracks,
Okay.
and my dad was from Canaryville, and somehow they met at a dance or something, and so I'm a.
product.
I got
of-
all these German attitudes, and they look at me, you know, how the hell is what's this guy? You know, what's wrong with this Irishman? By the way, I'm redheaded, and I got the red hair from my maternal grandmother.
There
So
you go.
the German lady.
She took off her wig and gave it to you. Then. Is that it? Or
Nine.
you know what? I have to laugh because I know where Fuller Park is, and I know Canaryville, so they probably lived about 2 blocks away or something.
Not much more.
Yeah. But Fuller Park is east of the tracks. I know
Right.
that.
Were the Knights of Columbus a significant social group among Catholics? I seldom heard of them my way, and you don't hear too much of them now.
Yeah, my father was actually
Everybody
Knights
was
of Columbus.
Masons, that sort of
Yeah.
thing. Masons were very strong.
I am a 4th degree Knight of Columbus.
Excellent.
Are you?
My father was too. Fourth.
Yeah.
fourth
As
degree.
I am, and I was
Are you?
Very
Grand
good,
Knight.
more than I would have.
I was Grand Knight of our St. Florians,
Yeah.
which is the only in the Knights of Columbus. It's the only fire
Yeah.
fighters, and here in Chicago we also have St. Michael's, which is the only police.
Council.
There are other police
You
councils
have,
around.
you have the cape and chapeau
and
and,
the
the
apes,
sword.
the sword,
Do you-
the whole thing.
Do you say Mike? You mean St. Michael the Archangel?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, I didn't
That's
know
it.
that. He's
Yeah.
a patron saint of Chaplain.
Chapter of the Knights
But-
of Columbus.
By the way, we do have a St. Florian's parish in Chicago. It's
Yes,
in
we do.
Hegwish, 132nd and Houston.
Right. You know what? When we started that, Father Tom and I got together and started this, and we had a vote of our next meeting. We're going to vote for a name. Well, my choice was the Monsignor Gorman,
Oh, yeah,
who
sure.
was our first chaplain in the Chicago Fire Department,
Yeah.
and well known and so forth and that. And when we got to the meeting, Tom and I went out to have bite to eat before, and not a word was said. We got to the meeting, and he got up and he says, "I vote for St. Florian's," and everybody else,
Yeah.
okay, yeah. He cut me right
Okay,
off.
right, yeah. Cut the legs off.
And
of
I'm
my-
glad he did. Yes.
This is learning for me today. Did many Catholic churches sponsor Cub or Boy Scout organizations?
Okay.
Yes,
Oh,
sure.
You did-
Oh, yeah.
What
Yeah.
do you-
When we
Okay.
were in grade school and stuff, Tom and myself,
Excellent.
our parish did not have Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts or Campfire Girls or whatever.
Right.
So if you wanted to be a Boy Scout, you went to Drexel Park Presbyterian at 64th and Marshfield, or half a block west, Thorburn Methodist Church at 64th and Paulina. I went to Thorburn originally. Were you ever there? Anywhere?
Uh-huh.
We were. You joined there. Now, about a year later, they started, so we transferred. But I mean, they were getting like. Drexel Park had 12, 15 dens of Cub Scouts or something like that. It was,
Wow. Yeah.
yeah, they were really big.
Yeah, St. Michael's had a Boy Scout. I was never in it, but they did have a Boy Scout troop. But that was it. That was the
Oh,
only.
okay.
When I was a
That's
kid,
good to know.
my,
Good to
my,
know.
my parochial school had Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts.
Yeah.
That's like a farm team. They move up, you know.
Yeah.
And John,
Right,
what neighborhood
yeah.
did you grow up in?
I'm aware of that.
Did you grow up
Yeah.
in Chicago, John, or West Side?
Well, I just
perhaps?
want to, just lest anyone think that neighborhoods are an exclusively Chicago phenomenon.
Yes,
The town of
yeah.
Cicero is divided into.
Oh, we're not going to talk about Cicero, are we?
No, I've listened to Chicago here for the last 45 minutes.
All right, go ahead. You,
Let's
sho-
go.
you,
Speak
sho-
for
you
the suburbs,
showed,
John.
you
Yes.
showed
Go ahead.
tremendous restraint.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Do you have anything to say?
Some,
right
some,
away?
of, some of my best friends have driven through the city of
No
Chicago.
kidding. Yeah, yeah.
But no,
They
no.
ever return?
As a matter of fact, a number of my aunts and uncles were longtime residents of the city of Chicago. So my childhood, I visited my godfather and my aunt who lived on the south side of Chicago, and then my godmother and uncle lived on the north side of Chicago.
Oh.
So I have links to the great city of Chicago.
Interesting.
We have neighborhoods in Cicero. We got 8 neighborhoods, and I grew up and lived all my life in a neighborhood called Hawthorne.
Not yet.
And it is the no.
the racetrack?
I've lived all of my life as it has thus
okay,
far
there.
been established.
correct.
But Hawthorne is we've always called it the most parochial and the most provincial neighborhood in town. We have our own park district. The rest of Cicero is in a single park district called the Clyde Park District. But Hawthorne has its own Hawthorne Park District, which is distinct from the rest of the town. We had, at one time, I think we had 5 firehouses in the town of Cicero. And each one of them would say, Engine 1, Engine 2, Engine 3. The firehouse in Hawthorne had a big sign that said Hawthorne Fire Station.
Wow.
As if it were a completely separate town. We had our own businessmen's organization, which was the equivalent of the Chamber of Commerce, the Hawthorne Businessmen's Association, of which my dad was a member. I joined, eventually became president. We put up a sign at the foot of the Laramie Avenue Bridge during the bicentennial, "Welcome to Hawthorne." Not welcome to Cicero, but welcome to
that's interesting.
Hawthorne. Hawthorne Businessmen's Association.
John,
So everything we had, and I identify with what you're saying. It was like your own world.
Yep.
And when I was growing up
there.
as a kid, I understood that I lived in a town called Hawthorne. As I knew it, Cicero was on the other side of the Laramie Avenue Bridge. That was Cicero over there. This was Hawthorne. Now,
Hawthorne.
you were vaguely aware that it was actually part of Cicero, but it was like that was the rest of this was Hawthorne. This was
Yeah.
something different and distinct.
This sounds kind of
John,
like Brooklyn.
why
to me.
did they get that name Hawthorne? And this is
Township?
tongue-in-cheek.
Township, right?
No. As a matter of fact, the best explanation I've been able to find is that one of the first businesses that was set up in the area was a quarry on Cicero Avenue, and it was called the Hawthorne Quarry. This is in the 1850s. And probably there were hawthorn bushes growing in the vicinity, and
yeah.
that's how it got the name. We have, each of the neighborhoods has a more... all but one of them has an easily ascertained explanation for the name, but Hawthorne is just kind of, you have to assume that it came from this business back in the 1850s.
Hawthorne is that.
Do they
little-
have a sportsman's neighborhood too?
All I can tell you is that the track came long after the neighborhood.
Oh,
The track
that's
came
that's
long
worth
after the
knowing.
neighborhood. I mean, Hawthorne was in the 19th century, long before there was a racetrack.
Right.
It was known as Hawthorne.
Well, that main building of the Hawthorne Works, that building's still there with the tower.
And again, it got its name. Again, the neighborhood was already there, and when they established the factory, they took the name of the Hawthorne Works from the neighborhood.
Right.
We have one of the neighborhoods in our town is called Grant Works. It's not Grant Park or Grant. It's Grant Works, because there was a locomotive factory there that was called the Grant Locomotive Works. And when the settlement developed around it, people working in the factory had to have a place where they started building homes. People would say, well, where do you live? Oh, I live over by the Grant Works. So all of a sudden, Grant Works just became the name of the
Is there
neighborhood.
anything in that building, the old Hawthorne building, the tower? It looks like
It's
when I drive by it, it looks like they rehabbed it.
That had been actually interesting. That was the headquarters of the Western Electric Fire Department and police force, because they were so big. They had their own fire engine and other equipment. They had a small fire unit, and they had their own police force that patrolled the area. So that tower was where the police force and the fire department were headquartered. The last time I was in it, which was many years ago, it was pretty well empty. I mean, the factory had disappeared. All the other buildings had been torn down. And we indicated we wanted them to keep that as a landmark, because we wanted something to remain there from the old Hawthorne factory, which was so important. Western Electric was so important to the town. People wanted, there was a tower on the corner of Cicero and Cermak that people would remember, and a lot of the preservationists wanted that tower preserved, but it wasn't a freestanding tower. It was connected to the entire building, and there was no way you could tear the rest of the building down, which was no longer valuable, and keep that. It was structurally impossible to keep it. So I was actually there. It was on Palm Sunday in 1986, I believe, when they blew that tower. There were people there from all over taking pictures of the tower coming. And I got a whole set of photos of it coming down.
At its peak, how many people worked there?
It is said that during World War II there were over 40,000 people that worked in that factory. In the 1960s there were still 25,000 people working in that factory. When they closed, it was down to about 13 or 14,000. Wow. And they had said they had this publication which they said Hawthorne is here to stay, about 4 years before they decided to close it down.
Yeah.
And
Where
more on
Western
did
Electric.
you live, actually? What street did you live on?
I
What
live in
Hawthorne.
I live in the
Hawthorne, yeah.
Interesting that the street I live on, 50th Avenue, was before the First World War was known as Hawthorne Avenue. All those streets had names before World War I, and then for some reason after World War I, they abolished the names and they gave them all numbers. So it became
so
it's
it's
north-south
50 West. It
Yeah.
was sort of corresponded with Chicago's.
But
50.
I'm rather proud of the fact that the street I lived on was once called Hawthorne Avenue.
And how far what was the cross street?
I'm not sure what the cross street was. I'd have to go back and check. Some of these records
Well,
are
I mean,
sketchy.
we're talking. You're south of Cermak and everything.
So, sorry. So Hawthorne is the southeast corner of Cicero.
Okay, that's
Grant Works is the northeast corner of Cicero.
Yeah.
And John, isn't Cicero's historic downtown not among those great bohemian restaurants that used to be along Cermak, but Laramie and 25th?
Well,
The
we had
post office was there, or did that change over the
you
years?
had the Cermak Road is usually considered to be the downtown area, but that's not where the government
Right.
buildings are. An area called Morton Park, which is what you're referring to, Laramie and 25th.
Yeah.
That's where the town hall, the old, it's been replaced.
Post
now,
office was there,
The
I
traditional
remember, yeah.
town hall, the fire department headquarters building, the grade school administration building, the post office, all, the police department headquarters. Everything was in the area you're referring to.
Right.
Name Morton. Let me tell you a quick story. Name Morton Park. Our high school is J. Sterling Morton High School. From that, we get Morton College, our community college, and the neighborhood, all named for Julius Sterling Morton, who was Secretary of Agriculture, I believe, under Grover Cleveland.
Oh.
And the interesting thing is that, to the best of anyone's knowledge, Julius Sterling Morton never once in his life set foot in the town of Cicero. His buddy was a man named Portus Weir, who was a landowner who owned the land in the area that we're talking about, near Laramie and 25th. He owned all that property. He was a friend of Morton, and so he named the development after his buddy, J. Sterling Morton. So from the neighborhood came the high school. From the high school came the college. So you have all these geographic things named after a man who has no connection with Cicero, personally, no connection whatever with Cicero.
Was that Morton Salt?
Same family.
Yeah,
I'm
same
just
family.
going to say,
Same
you know,
family. But he was a
and-
different member, than the Salt King.
Yeah,
he was the political branch of the
Yeah,
family.
because you mentioned there's a Joy.
Joy, that's the Salt.
Yeah, he was. Well, I don't know. Was he president of Morton Salt? He lived in Chicago at one time. and then he bought property out there, which is now Morton Arboretum.
Right.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
another thing named for him out west.
We-
Yeah,
we
but
often-
I thought everything was named for him, but you said it's not named for him, though. Huh?
No, everything in Cicero is named for Julius Sterling,
Julius
who was
Ster-
he was the political member of the family. He was a Democrat, and he was secretary. I'm pretty sure Secretary of Agriculture under Grover Cleveland.
It would make sense because the family originally was from Nebraska.
Yeah, right. They're Nebraska. You're absolutely right.
I
Nebraska
think
family.
one of them was governor, and they were all naturalists, and that governor started Arbor Day, which is now a national holiday. And J. Sterling Morton lived on Groveland Park. It's a little street at 33rd Place in Cottage Grove, dead end street. You drive in there, and it's a park.
Right near Douglas Monument, isn't it?
Yeah, right near
Yeah,
Douglas
right.
Monument. And then he had a house out there, and it's been chronicled. And then he moved out to, and he landscaped the thing himself.
Yeah.
And then he, of course, it wasn't that big of a deal. And then he moved out to, I don't know, was it Lyle or Wheaton or whatever?
Whatever
and,
they
and,
call the
and
area.
built,
The
built his,
Arboretum.
Yeah.
built
Yes.
his house out there, which is still standing.
that's-
and
Morton Arboretum,
That's
yes.
the that's
Morton
the, that's the
Arboretum.
Salt
Yeah.
King branch.
that's the
of it.
Salt King.
Yeah.
Jimmy Pearsall lives out there?
Oh, yeah. And you know what? There is a school in Chicago, J. Sterling Morton. It's in the 400 block of like Monticello or something.
Is there?
Like that.
There's a
Yeah.
J. Sterling, a grade school, or
It's a grade school. It's a
named,
yeah.
and it's named J. Sterling Morton, just like our high school. That's I never knew that.
I
never knew that.
assume that it was for.
I think they just call it Morton. don't
Yeah,
they?
yeah.
But it is-
I,
but it-
I thought it was for Joy, but I'm with sort of an odd first name, but that was his name. I don't know if it's who it's really named.
That's
after, but-
interesting, though, about Hawthorne, because we used to wonder, when we'd be working at Sportsman's. Well, naturally, a racetrack would be Sportsman's Park,
Yeah.
and then Hawthorne. What the hell? We're in Cicero.
And the funny thing,
Why isn't Cicero Park
Yeah.
or
But-
something?
yeah,
but
right.
you realize
But-
Hawthorne Racetrack is not in Cicero.
I know.
It's
I know.
in Stickney. It's a little.
in
It's a little.
Stickney.
It's a little slice that was the town board of Cicero voted to give it to Stickney because they didn't want a racetrack in their community, and so they
Oh, yeah.
ceded the land. That's if you look at a map of Cicero, it's a perfect rectangle except for this little chunk that's been taken out, which is on the land on which is the Hawthorne racetrack.
Yeah.
And it began in Oak Park Township, didn't it?
No.
Oh, am I
Oak
wrong?
Park was part of Cicero.
Cicero
Township.
Township.
Reverse. I
And
was
of the
reversed.
town
Okay.
of Cicero. It's not just
Don't
the
confuse
town of
township
Cicero.
with town or city.
No.
We're all in
No.
townships, too,
We,
And
The town of
I was
Cicero.
going to say in Chicago, Cicero Township goes all the way to Western Avenue, and at the time of the Chicago fire,
36 square miles.
yeah, it's 36.
That's just for
Yeah,
tax,
Yeah.
tax purposes.
A township is supposed to be a 6-mile square of a county. They're none are perfect. They're all different sizes.
The original boundaries of the town of Cicero were Western Avenue to Harlem Avenue, North Avenue to Pershing Road, 39th
Yeah.
Street. That was the town of Cicero
Yeah.
in 1857.
yeah.
Wow.
Good friend of mine retired from the Chicago Police Department and went to. I says, "Where are you going to go, John?" He says, "I'm going to be a police chief." I says, "Oh
Hey,
yeah,
woo-hoo.
what? Where are you going?" Stickney.
Ah,
I says, "Oh boy, that's really great,
Yeah.
Johnny Zito."
Yeah.
And,
What was his name?
Johnny Zito.
well, I remember seeing that name in
And
the
he's-
news. I
he
remember
just
seeing it
died
in the
about
local
a year
news. Yeah,
ago.
remember
Yeah.
Chief Zito of the Stickney
Yeah,
Police?
good guy,
Sure,
good guy.
Sure. I
You
remember that.
You know, Jack, in Chicago, the town of Lake was
that's where I live.
36 square miles. Yeah.
Chicago
You live-
still
no,
has
you don't live
town
there, no.
nominal.
Oh, yeah.
They
Nominal
mean it,
t-
they have
yeah.
nominal township.
I
Yeah.
think they're
Yeah.
first.
You see it on your tax
Tax
bill.
bill.
Assessors,
Yeah.
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 Town of
It
Lake.
has no significance other
But
than
that was 36 square miles, and we still have like 87th and Cicero is still boundary lines for Chicago.
There's Stickney Township. There's plus Stickney, the town of Stickney, and the township.
Township, yeah, and I
Like there's
think
a
that
village of
was
Lyons, and there's Lyons.
Do we know the
Town.
derivation of the name Stickney? It's a very unusual name. It's
was a man who developed the area, brought in the railroads or something like that.
Often
It was
the
a
developer
Stickney.
either named it
Sure.
for himself or got to pick the name.
Yeah,
it was-
yeah.
Except when you go and drive by there in the summertime, and then I think they left the
They-
N out of
yes, that was a play on
out of
words,
that
of course,
Stickney.
yeah.
Yeah,
I think it was
And-
probably hockey.
And Cicero was the Roman orator, correct?
Marcus Tullius Cicero.
And
yeah.
that's-
And the interesting thing is the man who made the motion at the meeting to name it the town of Cicero
We always say you'd like to think that he was a classical scholar and that he admired the statesmanship of Cicero. He had moved to Illinois from Onondaga County, New York, where he lived in the town of Cicero. He lived in the town, and it switches still there. And I always say he probably had a lot of business cards and stationery printed up, and he figured might as well have his new town with the same name. He didn't have to throw it away then.
You know, it's interesting you mention that because I've been up there, Wheatsport and Syracuse. A lot of towns up there are named
Onondaga County?
Onondaga.
You ever been in the town of Cicero? It is still there in New
No,
York.
I've never been there,
Still
but
there in
it's trying to think. Cooperstown is in I think that's the name of the hotel, Onondaga Hotel.
I didn't know
At the Finger Lakes, but all the not all, but a lot of towns there are named Latin name. Cicero and Brutus, and they have towns in townships.
Wow.
And they're all volunteer firemen, by the way.
And one more thing about Cicero. I think that was the name of Smokey Stover's cat.
Really?
Cicero, yeah.
Oh.
Anyway, we're getting down. Oh, we got a minute to go.
A minute to
Hey, we're
go.
doing pretty well this time. Listen, we're going to continue this subject next time, folks. It's been very good. We can add more to it, and plus all of our people are not here. Tom didn't get to talk. Bill didn't get to talk, which is fine. You'll have your time next time.
I will say something right now.
Yeah.
We are here on the 21st, which is Monday. Saturday, we have an open house
I was going to ask you
at
that.
5218 Southwestern, the Fire Museum of Greater Chicago, and it's open from 10 to 2. That's on the 26th of April.
Can we bring? Can I bring my little grandson?
You can bring your
Yeah.
grandson.
Yeah,
Bring a camera with you.
Yeah.
And we'll put him up on that rig and get his
Yeah.
picture.
Yeah.
How old
Okay.
is he? 3.5 months?
Until next time, on behalf of Tom McKenna, Ken Little, Rich Lang, John Koshelko, Bill Kugelman, and myself, Jack Ryan, remember, history is much more than a book that you keep on the shelf.
Ooh, very good.
Sounds like something Cicero
Once
would
again,
say.
you have been listening to our monthly program, Meet the Chicago Historians, which was pre-recorded on April 21st, 2014. Our Historians show is broadcast over WRHS, Jack FM, 89.7 on your dial in Norridge. We thank the management of Jack FM. You can also access our show, both today's as well as a back library of older broadcasts, on the internet by going to windycityhometown.com. Goodbye, and once again, thanks for listening. This is Rich Lang speaking.
You have been listening to Meet the Chicago Historians from the John Nevada Broadcast Center on the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network on Monday, April the 21st, the year 2014. This broadcast was produced by Jack Ryan, directed by John DeVita, edited by Stephen Lehman. Our audio engineer is James Rohde, and the executive producer of Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network is John Shikanda. Be safe, and thanks for listening.